What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
5LS. Chapter 101. Moran's Psychological Shadow, Papa. Near the 7 water capitals of the Grand Line in 2 months. On the sea level, the Wanjian pirates sailed slowly. Moran is lying on a deck chair enjoying massage and feeding. This Grand Line is just boring. Generally, pirates run away immediately when they encounter them. Moran doesn't even give him a chance to play if he wants to. At this time, a news bird quacked and flew across the sky. Moran saw the news bird and shouted, "Bonnie has a news bird, you go buy a newspaper and come back." Got Moran, big brother. Da da da. Blue Bonnie ran over to Moran with a newspaper and said, "Moran, big brother, the newspaper for you, and the drink I made for you." After missing Blackbeard's newspaper last time, now Moran buys the newspaper when he sees the news bird, because it won't take long for Summit War. Ace is definitely not the opponent of the old Yinbi Blackbeard, even if he practiced with Rayleigh for a while, it's useless. After reading the newspaper for a while, he found that there was no new news, just some irrelevant news. Moran threw the newspaper and looked down at the tornado and said, "Tornado, come down." Quote. This little girl has always been in his arms, and she can't be driven away. Long Wan raised his head and glanced at him, then continued to drill in, ignoring him. Moran said with a smirk, "It's okay if you don't come down, but you have to call me Papa, or I'll throw you out." Moran is like raising a child now, and I believe that such a newspaper will appear in a short time. Shocking. It turns out that 7 warlords of the Sea Alphad Moran already has a child. Once this kind of newspaper appears, it will make many girls cry. What? Long Wan raised his head and said speechlessly, "Moran, can you be a little more shameless? You actually asked me to call you Papa." When the people nearby heard this, they also rolled their eyes. They didn't expect that their own captain had such a habit. Moran saw that everyone was looking at him with weird faces, and he said angrily, "If you don't want to come down to me, now you are drilling into my arms every day, what does this make others think? Others think I am raising a child." Long Wan blushed slightly, she was embarrassed to speak, but she was also unwilling to come down. He finally found a chance to get close to Moran. Tornado took out her nirvana, pouted and looked at Moran with tears in her eyes and said, "Moran, please change your request." This was something she figured out slowly, and that's what Moran did. But this time Moran let her down. Moran's attitude was firm and there was no room for negotiation. Either call Papa, or come down for me. Once or twice is fine. If it continues like this in the future, he will definitely have some weird titles, such as Pirate with a Baby, and another example, Pervert Maniac who likes little girls. If such titles really appear, he will not crazy. Moran deliberately found a reason to get the tornado down. It is impossible for such an arrogant person to call him Papa. Sure enough, Tornado struggled for a long time, but still couldn't cry out, so he came down reluctantly, and yelled, "If you don't hug me, don't hug me, I don't care if you hug me." Humph. Long Wan walked 2 steps and then turned his head and let out a hum, then walked away with his nostrils upturned and his face full of pride. "Captain, I saw the capital of 7 waters, shall we land?" Van Oka said standing on the lookout tower. Moran turned his head to look at the blue Bonnie not far away and asked, "How much food and fresh water does Bonnie have? Is it enough to reach the next island?" Blue Bonnie calculated for a while and said, "Moran, big brother, we don't have much food and fresh water, we need to replenish it. Then we can only land in the capital of 7 waters, just to repair our boat." Although the ship was well protected by them, it was normal for some damage to occur after sailing for a long time, but they couldn't see it. Quote. "Little ones, get ready and land in the capital of 7 waters. It's the captain. Come here and get 10 million Baileys per person." Now that Moran has money, he is proud and needs to buy things by himself. After the money was distributed, Moran said, "Disband in place, what should you do?" "What do you want to do, Van Oka?" Seeing that Van Oka also wanted to sneak away, Moran hurriedly stopped him. Van Oka asked with a look of confusion, "The captain didn't disband on the spot as you said, what should I do?" "I'm talking about other people, not you. You're going to have to get someone to come and fix it and get on and off the boat." Van Oka said with a look of lovelessness, "Captain, you are treated differently, I don't accept it." Moran said with a blank face, "If you are not convinced, how about you just pick one of the combat members to practice with them, and if you win, you can let them do your thing." "Captain, I think it's my honor for you to let me repair the ship. I shouldn't shirk it. Just go and have fun. I'll take care of the ship, and it will be done properly." Moran looked at the cowardly Van Oka and taunted, "That's all you've got?" Without saying a word, Van Oka went to find someone to repair the boat. "But I thought in my heart, I can't do it if I don't love you. Last time I was here, I was almost trampled to death by that woman. Let me fight these monsters, my life is not enough for them to fight." What Moran didn't know was that another port on the island, the Straw Hat Pirates, also landed in the 7 waters capital. Moran 390 looked at Arturia in front of him, and asked suspiciously, "Why don't you go play?" Even the tornado, who likes to stick to himself, ran to play, but she didn't play, it's a bit strange. Arturia was a little embarrassed and said, "I don't know where to go, let me go with you." Moran was also helpless. As soon as a little Lolita was driven away, another little Lolita came right away. Moran touched her head, "Stay Mao," and said, then follow me. After finishing speaking, Moran walked ahead first, and Arturia didn't follow immediately, but asked first, "You don't want me to call you Papa, do you?" Moran petrified directly on the spot, and after a long time, he turned his head stiffly and explained, "Arturia, I don't have such a habit, I just said that to get rid of the tornado, you have to believe me." Arturia nodded suspiciously and said, "Well, I believe you." Moran yelled frantically, "Does your little expression look like you believe me?" "Forget it, explaining is just covering up. For those who don't believe it, it's useless to say more, just say, I won't let you call, okay? Let's go." Only then was Arturia happy, and trotted after her. Chapter 102. Adorable. Arturia. Interesting for you. Selena Gomez posts powerful bikini then and now. More. 231. 58. 77. Moran took Arturia and walked slowly on a small boat pulled by animals, playing in the capital of 7 waters. "What are Moran's? They look delicious, shall we go buy them?" Arturia looked at the booth in front, took Moran's hand and shook it coquettishly. Moran looked at Arturia in shock, this was the first time she acted like a baby to Moran. Arturia also reacted, and hurriedly lowered her head, not daring to look at Moran, and thought to herself, what happened to me just now? I'm so shy. Moran also knew that she was shy, so he went directly to the booth she pointed to. "Welcome, what do you need?" Seeing the two of Moran coming, an ant hurriedly greeted them. Moran looked at Arturia and asked, "What do you want to eat?" Arturia was also polite, and directly took some food that looked like water bags, and ate it directly. Moran looked at Arturia, whose mouth was full of oil, and said speechlessly, "Pay attention to the image." Arturia looked at Moran innocently and asked, "What's wrong? Is there something wrong?" Moran wiped the corner of her mouth and said, it's okay, you can continue to eat." Ant, who set up the stall, said, "This is watery meat. It is relatively big, so eat it slowly." Then he said 363, "Your girlfriend is really happy." Arturia heard that Ant, who was setting up the stall, said she was Moran's girlfriend, her face flushed slightly, and she continued to eat watery meat as if nothing had happened. Moran doesn't explain, this kind of thing can't be explained, he doesn't want to explain, he can't wait for it to be true. Although Arturia has a lot of affection, but with her chivalry and her incomprehensible look, Moran has not taken her down until now. It is even more difficult to handle than Robin. Moran looked at her and asked, "Are you full? If not, I'll buy it for you." Arturia said a little embarrassedly, "I'm full." Moran looked at the kawaii Arturia in front of him, and he couldn't take it anymore, he picked up her face and slapped her. Arturia, who was attacked by Moran, moved the dumb hair on the top of her head, but she had a cute look on her face, and she obviously hadn't reacted yet. When she did, Moran had already turned around and moved away from her. Arturia murmured angrily, hiding away, "I won't do anything to you." Moran heard it too, but didn't dare look back at her. Do you think he wants to take advantage of it? No, he is just enjoying the thrill of a successful sneak attack, all he wants to do is heartbeat, and what he wants is excitement. Actually, he is afraid that she will slap him. Moran and the two sat in a boat and came to a gate. A very nice, female voice came down from above. "Please come in. The elevator leads to the shipbuilding island. It will reach the shipyard and water capital Center Street. Quote. Please hurry up and enter the gate, there is still 1 minute before the gate closes." Arturia saw that others were walking towards the gate, and immediately said, "It seems to be very interesting inside Moran, let's go in and have a look." It didn't take long for the two of them to arrive at the central street of the water city. "Wow, Moran, look at that fountain, it's so beautiful and big." Arturia sighed when she saw the huge fountain. Moran also saw it. The fountain on Central Street should be the tallest place in the water capital that I saw overseas, the huge fountain. It's really big. If you look closer, it might appear even bigger. Arturia heard this, and immediately said, "Then let's go see this fountain." Moran also said, "It's fine if you like it, it doesn't matter where I go." At this time, there was a sudden commotion on the shore, and a group of people gathered together, as if they were watching something lively. Arturia said with a curious face, "Moran, let's go there first, it seems that there is something exciting to watch." "Okay, I'll listen to you." Moran directed the animals pulling the boat to land, and saw Van Oka standing there, not knowing what he was looking at just after landing. Moran walked over and asked, "What are you looking at, Van Oka?" Van Oka turned around and saw Moran, and said, "It's nothing, just now a group of pirates were making trouble, and they were resolved by the people in the shipyard. The people in the shipyard are quite strong." At this moment, Moran also saw the people from CP9 not far away. He never thought that they were still here after being caught by him last time. Van Oka said as if remembering something, "By the way, the CP9 you caught last time, Captain, is also in this shipyard. I don't know what they want to do." Moran said casually, "They should have a mission here." Moran didn't explain too much. Anyway, they didn't dare to touch Robin now, so he didn't mind his own business. At this time Moran saw a guy wearing a straw hat walking past him leisurely. Moran didn't even think about it, he just lifted his foot and kicked it. Boom, boom. The guy in the straw hat was kicked and flew out, hitting a house not far away, and spider webs immediately appeared in the house. Which B********* D kicked me, come out and I will fight you one-on-one. After Luffy pulled himself out from the wall, he looked around and found no suspicious person, and shouted angrily. Usopp trotted over with Nami, carrying a bag. Usopp asked. Luffy, why did you fly out suddenly, what's going on? Luffy was still looking around angrily, and finally found Moran in the crowd. Did you kick me just now? Moran said nonsense. I have such a good relationship with you, how could I kick you, don't you think? Luffy thought for a while and said. Then did you see who kicked me just now? Damn it, I'm going to beat him up. Luffy, a single-celled guy, believed Moran's nonsense without any doubt. Nami and Nami stood aside, covering their faces with their hands and staring blankly. Moran saw that Usopp was carrying a big bag of things, so he knew they should have been to Sky Island, but he didn't expect that they didn't collect all the gold last time. Usopp, what is behind you, show me, Moran said with a malicious look on his face. Usopp backed away trembling all over his body, and stopped until he hit the wall and stammered. No. Nothing, just some worthless things, you won't like it. Moran walked towards Usopp step by step, and said as he walked, oh. Since it's worthless, give it to me. I like these cheap things. Chapter 103. Marine Admiral. Aokiji appears in the City of Seven Waters. Nami, a miser, stopped in front of Moran and said, wait, don't grab our stuff, this is the gold we managed to pick up from Sky Island. Looking at Nami in front of him, Moran deliberately said, actually, I am just teasing you, I can't run out of Bailey flowers on my boat, and I am going to send some Baileys away, otherwise my boat will almost not fit. How could it be possible to take a fancy to your little gold? Nami immediately stared at Bailey, took 2 steps forward and hugged Moran's arm, then shook it and said, then can you give me a little, just a little? Nami spoke, and gestured with her fingers. That's not okay. The money is all reserved for my future wife. If I give it to you, what can I do to marry her? Moran added. Unless you're my wife. Nami secretly said. 663, good. I said how could he be so kind, so he was waiting for me here. Nami said with a look of disdain. Cut, just a little. Bailey wants me to be your wife. I think you are crazy about your daughter-in-law, are you? Moran turned his head and asked. I said Arturia last time, how much money do I have? Arturia thought for a while, and said a little uncertainly. It seems that I can't remember whether it is 70 billion Baileys or 80 billion Baileys. Husband, when are we going to get married? All that flashed in Nami's eyes was Bailey. Hearing the tens of billions of Bailey, his attitude immediately changed 180 degrees. Her husband called on him, and now she was lying on Moran's body, holding on tightly. Hold him as if afraid that he will run away. At this time, Arturia pretended to be puzzled and said, Moran, I remember you not long ago, you seem to have spent all of Bailey. Apparently she saw that Moran was so close to Nami, so she was jealous and deliberately said that Bailey had finished spending. Hearing this, Nami stared at Kowloon Avenue with Fu Guang. You be asterisk 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 D, you actually played me. Moran was speechless, looking at Arturia helplessly. Nami felt that she had been tricked, turned her head angrily and said, Luffy, let's go. Moran looked at the three of Nami, walked away slowly and wanted to say something, but Arturia spoke first. Humph. Arturia glanced at Moran and said with a, there are so many on board, and you are still messing around outside. After speaking, without waiting for Moran to speak, he walked directly towards the fountain. Arturia, you wait for me. Moran had no choice but to follow up. There were still so many on the boat that he hadn't taken yet, so he felt a little greedy. Van Orca stood alone, and his captain just forgot about him, and shouted, Captain, wait for me. Moran turned around and asked speechlessly, what are you doing following? Moran complained in his heart. I don't have any sharp eyesight, didn't I see that the two of them are dating? Van Orca froze on the spot in embarrassment, a little at a loss. He secretly thought, forget it, he doesn't understand the world of the boss, so he won't join in the fun, let's repair his boat. Thinking of this, Van Orca turned around and left silently. Robin is shopping with Tornado, and Tornado is floating in front of him, urging Robin to hurry up. When the people around saw a little girl floating in the air, they gathered around to watch and point. A commoner said, hey, look at that little girl. She can fly, she has been floating in the air. I have been watching her for a long time. Another commoner asked, I think she's a pirate, does any of you know her? A commoner replied, I feel familiar, but I can't remember it. Robin, hurry up, let's go ahead and buy that thing to eat. Wanjian pirates are relatively famous in New World, but only Moran is more famous, his crew is not very famous, only those who have been offered rewards in the early stage are more famous, and other people who are summoned later, if they are not exposed, of course they will not be famous. When Dragon Wan saw it not far away, there was a stall selling snacks and urged him again. Robin said helplessly, Tornado, you float around, you don't need to walk and you don't feel tired at all, but you have to take pity on me, who walks on 2 feet. Long Wan turned his head and said embarrassedly, I see, then I'll go to the front to have a look first, and you can just shout if there is anything wrong. After speaking, she drifted towards the snack stall in front of her, and Robin had no choice but to follow behind her slowly. At this time, a tall man with a tall and thin explosive head came up to him, and there was a telescopic eye on his forehead. Ah la la, little Robin didn't expect to meet you here. Robin looked at the man approaching, stopped, looked at the Afro man in front of him, and asked with an ugly face, are you here to catch me? Aokiji quickly waved his hand and said, I'm just passing by, I don't dare to catch you, or I will be chopped into pieces by your pirates. Aokiji doesn't want to have anything to do with Moran now, and it's too late to hide, let alone mess with these guys. Hearing this, Robin also breathed a sigh of relief. Although she knew that Moran could protect her, she still couldn't help being afraid when she met Aokiji. There was no way to get rid of the psychological shadow left by her childhood, which is not so easy. Aokiji chatted casually. Now you follow that guy, you don't have to be afraid of being caught, are you doing well now? Robin said with a happy smile. I had a good time on board Wanjian pirates. Although the captain is a bit unruly, he treats me very well. Robin recalled when he was a child, and said with a face full of memories, you let me go, and I haven't said thank you to you in person. Thank you for letting me go, otherwise I wouldn't have met such a good captain. Aokiji said with a helpless face. You ran away by yourself at the beginning, if your word spread, I will lose my skin. He can't admit it, it's one thing to know 5.3, but another thing to say it or not. Robin didn't dare to say these bluntly. Anyway, I still want to thank you for giving me a chance. He added in his heart. Give me a chance to meet the captain. Since you didn't come to catch me, then I'll go first. After speaking, Robin walked forward, trying to catch up with the tornado in front of her, but several masked people jumped out in front of her, stopped her and said, We are from World Government CP9. Tornado, come back quickly, there are enemies here. Robin didn't care what happened, and directly shouted and used the summoning technique, commonly known as shaking people. Search. With a sound of tornado search, he came to Robin in an instant and asked, Robin, are you okay? Where is the enemy? Chapter 104. Spandam Cell's teammates. Robin pointed to the CP9 in front of him and said uncertainly, It's just a few of them, they are members of the World Government CP9, they probably want to arrest me. Every time Moran landed on the island, he would arrange for a combat member to accompany those who had no strength, just to prevent accidents from happening. Tornado floated in front of several CP9 members, pointed to their noses and asked, Are you guys the ones who want to catch us Wanjian pirates? A CP9 member looked at the leader and asked, What does the head say? Are we going to do it? The leader of CP9 is a bit in a dilemma. He knows how scary the little girl in front of him is. According to the intelligence, he fought against the 4 emperors and without losing the wind. They didn't notice the tornado just now. They saw Robin talking to Marine Admiral Aokiji alone. Seeing that there was a Marine Admiral on the side, and Robin didn't have a strong CP9 to lead him, so he made a wrong decision, contacted Spandam to report the situation here, and waited for their chief to agree before doing anything. I didn't expect such a terrifying person to appear suddenly. Guy. CP9 took the lead and looked at Aokiji who hadn't left yet and asked, Marine Aokiji Admiral, I am Black Fang, the captain of World Government CP9's second team, please help us capture Nico Robin. Aokiji looked at some CP9's idiots, and said with a speechless expression, If you want to arrest them, you can arrest them yourself. I don't want to meddle in this business. After Aokiji finished speaking, he took a few steps back, looking like he was watching a show. He can't even hide in time, he will only take care of this nosy business when his head is wadded, he doesn't want to die so young. Nico Robin is here, and everyone in the Wanjian Pirates is probably here. If he is alone if he fights, he won't be able to run away even if he wants to. Tornado floated around several CP9 members and said, What skills do you have? Use them all. A member of CP9 couldn't take it anymore. Seeing Tornado with his back turned to him, he punched him directly. Boom, boom. However, it was not the tornado that flew out, but the members of CP9. The members of CP9 who were blown out for no reason hit the wall and bled, and slumped down limply. Number 3. W. Several CP9 members ran over, helped number 3 and asked, How are you doing number 3? Are you okay? Ahem. Number 3 said while coughing up blood. Be careful, there is an invisible energy around her, which cannot hit her body. The other members of CP9 anxiously asked, Damn this B********************************** D, what should we do? The leader said, Let's go together and fight quickly. Shave. Several people disappeared in place in an instant, and rushed to the tornado, gun finger, tempest kick, and everyone used their housekeeping skills. Bang, bang, bang. However, they hadn't even touched the tornado just waved their hands, and they were sent flying backwards by an invisible energy, stepping into the footsteps of number 3, those who fell into the sea, and those who hit the wall. It took a long time for CP9 to get up. After the leader He Fang tried it out, he knew that he was not an opponent and he didn't want to fight Tornado again. He asked, What do you want? If it wasn't for wearing a mask, you couldn't see it, or the face would be very exciting. Long Wan looked at a few CP9s with an expression of looking foolish, and said, Are you guys making a mistake? It's you who want to arrest people, and now you're here to ask me what I want. Black Fang looked at Aokiji again and said, Aokiji Admiral, don't you just look at it like this, and don't care about the pirates doing anything wrong. He wanted to drag Aokiji into the water, and he dared to do it just because he saw Aokiji was here. He didn't expect that the dignified Marine Admiral Aokiji would be so cowardly. Now he is riding a tiger. Aokiji said with a speechless face, Have you ever thought about it, let alone the question of whether you can catch him? He is from Shichibukai Alphad Moran, so what if you catch him? Aokiji is really a little doubtful now. Is this guy the leader of CP9? How did he become the leader with such a brain? I'm afraid it's all because of his credit. Tornado turned his head to look at Robin and asked, "Does Robin kill them all?" Robin thought for a while and said, "Forget it, don't trouble the captain if you have nothing to do, just beat them away." Several people from CP9 were not far away from the tornado, and they also heard the words of the tornado. Their hearts tightened, and the cold sweat continued to break out, and they heard Robin's words again, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Aokiji also breathed a sigh of relief. He was here. If he watched CP9's people get killed and didn't care, he wouldn't feel better either. Long Wan looked at the members of CP9, with his nostrils upturned, and said arrogantly, if you want to fight or not, then get out. She wanted to kill these people, but Robin refused, so she had no choice but to let them go reluctantly. Aokiji took 2 steps, and found that several people from CP9 were still standing there behind him, and said angrily, if you don't want to leave, don't even think about leaving when Alphad Moran comes over, he is not so easy to talk to. Looking at Aokiji and others who were walking away slowly, Tornado asked in confusion, Robin, why don't you let me kill them, they are bullying us. Robin explained, one more thing is worse than one less thing. They represent the ZF of the world. I know that you are all strong and not afraid of them, but I can't always trouble you. Robin didn't want to talk about this, so he changed the subject and said, okay, forget about it, I'll take you to eat delicious food. Okay, I want to eat this, and that, the one over there too. The tornado was distracted by being eaten in an instant, and then floated around in front of it. After Aokiji walked a long distance, he turned around and looked at the CP9 people and warned, go back and tell your officers, don't even think about catching Nico Robin, if you want to catch her, you have to do it well. Alphad Moran's preparations for attacking Eni's lobby. After speaking, Aokiji left without looking back, without waiting for them to speak. Watching Aokiji walk away, one of the CP9 members asked, what shall we do now? Heifeng didn't reply him, but took out a phone bug and called him. Boo boo, boo boo. Moxie gotta, Moxie. I'm Spandam, Black Fang is calling, is it over? The leader, Black Fang, said, the task of Commander Spandam has failed, the enemy is too strong to succeed, what should we do next? If you fail, you should stay where you are. Spandam was thinking about other things, and said casually. Yes, sir. Eni's lobby. Come on. Spandam who hung up the phone shouted, and a soldier walked in immediately. Spandam looked at the soldiers in front of him and said, pass down the order, the captain of the CP9 second team, Heifeng, didn't obey the order, and attacked Shichibukai privately, violating the Shichibukai agreement, and immediately arrest all members of the CP9 second team. It's Chief Spandam. The members of CP9 are still in place, foolishly waiting for new tasks or orders, but they don't know that their chief has sold them out. Chapter 105. Shopping with Arturia. Everyone in Wanjian Pirates has no intention of leaving, especially the girls on the boat. Seeing that it is getting dark, Moran just scanned over with his knowledge, and most of the good guys are still on the island. The street was crazy, especially the girls, no one was on the boat, only Uchiha Madara and Van Oka waited on the boat bitterly. At this time, Moran and Arturia were still shopping and had just returned from the fountain. Boom, boom. Suddenly there was a burst of explosions, and Moran floated up into the sky with green energy to check. After watching for a while, Moran knew what was going on. It should be the story of Frankie's house being demolished by Luffy's group. Moran fell down and said, go Arturia, I'll take you to watch the fun. Arturia asked with a puzzled look, what's the excitement? There are people fighting over there, let's go over and see what's going on. After finishing speaking, she hugged her by the waist very naturally and flew up. Arturia just twitched a bit and blushed slightly, but she didn't resist and let Moran hug her and fly like a bird. Boom, boom. As Moran gets closer, it gets bigger. Rumble. When Moran fell to the ground, the whole house suddenly collapsed. Looking at the collapsed house, Moran said, Arturia, it seems that we are still a step late, they have already finished fighting. Since there is no excitement to watch, where shall we go to play next? Arturia looked up at Moran and asked. Leave aside the play, I suddenly remembered that there is something to do, we will wash away me later. Moran wants to go to Frankie and get that thing in his hand, even though he doesn't use it, it can't fall into other people's hands. Seeing the 3 of Luffy and 1 animal come out, Moran greeted. Yo. Luffy, we meet again. Aren't you going to be pirates, have you changed your career to house demolition? Luffy and the others just glanced at him, ignored him and walked away, only Chopper stared blankly at Moran. Moran leaned in front of Chopper and said, little civet cat, we meet again, do you miss me? Chopper frowned instantly, and cursed. You be ********* D will miss you, and I'm a reindeer, not a civet cat. Moran said casually. I know little civet cat, what are you doing here? Chopper said with a look of lovelessness. Our Bailey was robbed, and Usopp was seriously injured by them. We are here to avenge Usopp and snatch our Bailey back. Sure enough, this is the plot. Robin is on his boat now, I don't know if the Straw Hat Pirates will go to Eni's lobby, let's just take a step and watch, there are so many dry birds. Having figured it out, Moran began to tease Chopper again, then you guys are really miserable. Not to mention that Pele was robbed, and he was seriously injured. Maybe you are too weak. No one dares to think about me like me. Moran looked Versailles, sarcastically at the same time. Guji Guji. Chopper looked pale, and ran away with an expression of about to cry, without even looking back. Arturia looked at Moran speechlessly and said, Moran is so cute, why are you bullying him? I was helping them, preventing them from being beaten by society. How could they grow up? Arturia rolled her eyes speechlessly. Even if she was in a daze, she would not believe such nonsense. Moran looked at Luffy and the others, all with the expression that others owed them tens of billions, and he stopped putting his hot face on his cold asterisk. Let's go to Arturia. Let's go find a guy to get something, and then we'll go back to the boat, it's not too early. After speaking, Moran opened his arms and looked at Arturia with an expression that you understand. Arturia blushed slightly, and said in a low voice, I can walk by myself, without flying around. How could Moran agree, and said nonsense. Come up, the distance is too far, and the walk is too slow, let me take you. Arturia jumped up helplessly, wrapping her arms around Moran's neck. Moran no longer emitted green energy, and began to float up. Observation Haki spread out, covering the entire capital of Seven Waters. With his current knowledge, because he has the ability of Thunder Fruit, covering an island is simply a breeze. Frankie, I found you. I found Frankie 1,000 meters away, and there are 2 girls with him, it should be those 2 girls. Asking for flowers. Call out. In an instant, Moran disappeared on the spot, sliding out a long straight line in the air, and the house on the ground was too fast, as if he was going backwards. Zoro looked at Moran who flew away and asked, Luffy, do you know this guy is here too? Luffy didn't have the usual giggles, and said with a deadpan face, Nami and I met them before, and after chatting with them for a while, Nami and I went to the shipyard. Chopper interjected in surprise, do you all know that scary guy? Zoro explained. We met them in the upside-down mountain before, and we fought back and couldn't fight back. Sanji was a little surprised and said, by the way, you talked with him for so long just now, do you know him too? Zero. What? Chopper asked with a look of horror. You fought him, why are you still here? Several people looked at Chopper suspiciously, not knowing why. Chopper explained. This guy is very scary. Everyone who fought against him was sent into Impel down by him. Zoro asked suspiciously. Where is Impel down? Sanji explained. That is the largest prison in the world, so the powerful pirates are usually sent there. Ms. Doriel also told me that among the pirates defeated by him, there were not a few with a bounty of more than 1 billion. In short, he was a very scary guy, and told me not to provoke him. Over 1 billion. The eyes of Luffy and the others were round, and they looked at Chopper dumbfounded. They only have a bounty of tens of millions. What is the concept of 1 billion? Chopper was trembling all over, and said tremblingly, it's over. If you have a grudge against him, will he come to take revenge? Sanji comforted. Don't worry about Chopper, we have nothing against him. To put it bluntly, we had a fight, but to put it bluntly, we were tricked by him. Zoro said with emotion. It seems that we still underestimated that guy's strength. Sanji said helplessly. Try not to have any contact with him in the future, and he won't come to trouble us for no reason. Luffy had a serious face and didn't know what he was thinking without saying a word. Chapter 106. Frankie was almost trampled to death. Moran took Arturia, and soon came to Frankie not far away, stepped down and walked forward step by step. The girl next to Frankie pushed him and said, Boss seems to be looking for you. Frankie looked at Moran who was approaching and said, oh, what a wonderful person has come. Moran smiled as he approached. You are Frankie. No way. Moran couldn't help laughing when he saw Frankie walking on the street in a pair of shorts. Oh, I'm Frankie, 7 warlords of the Sea Alphad Moran, I don't know why you want me. Frankie looked at Moran with a serious face, but he still did not forget to be funny and put on all kinds of shameful gestures. Moran smiled and said, it's nothing serious, I just want to borrow something from you, would you like to lend it to me? Hearing the words, 783, Frankie subconsciously touched the chest where the Pluton blueprint was stored. He asked with an ugly face, what do you guys want? Moran said one sentence at a time, Pluton blueprint. Frankie's face changed, but he still said firmly, I don't know what you are talking about, you must have found the wrong person. Moran's face gradually became dangerous and said, I think you should know, or do you want me to get it myself? After speaking, Moran immediately came to Frankie and grabbed his chest. He knew that Frankie put something in his chest. So fast. Frankie let out a cry of surprise, rolled around in embarrassment, and backed away again and again, but Moran was like his shadow, following him everywhere. No matter how fast he ran, Moran would appear by his side in an instant. Frankie yelled with an ugly face. You be asterisk 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 D, I don't have what you're looking for, get out of here. Frankie, stop pretending. If I'm not sure, I won't come to you. You'd better hand it over obediently. Frankie ran around and shouted. I said no, I didn't. What do you want? Moran also lost his patience and said, I really don't cry when I see the coffin. Boom. A big hole was stepped on the ground. Moran disappeared instantly and appeared in front of Frankie. Boom. A whip kick was thrown towards his chest fiercely, and Frankie instantly flew backwards and smashed into a house. Boom. Rumble. A house was directly smashed through, and after a while the house collapsed, and Frankie was directly buried in the ruins. Moran walked towards the ruins step by step. With a wave of his hand, the ruins were overturned, revealing Frankie inside the ruins. Moran's eyes flashed red. One after another conquerors pressed down, looked down at Frankie and said, you should understand that you are powerless in front of me. Don't think that someone can come to rescue you. There is someone on the whole island. I can hear and see whoever said anything. No one can save you. Frankie felt the pressure like mountains and rivers, just got up with difficulty, and knelt down on the ground, holding on firmly, and said in a daze, "How can you be so strong? I don't believe it." What? Because Frankie has been suppressed by Moran's Conqueror's Haki, he can't even think of fighting back. With a loud roar, he stood up desperately, and ran straight away without looking back. He only had one thought now, to stay away from this terrifying guy. Frankie thought while running. If what he just said is true, he can have a panoramic view of the whole island, no matter where I go, it's useless. Moran looked at Frankie who was kneeling on the ground just now being pressed by his Conqueror's Haki, and roared that he was now facing his Conqueror's Haki, and those who could run and jump were speechless for a while. Sure enough, those who can follow Destiny's Child are not simple characters, at least their willpower is terrifying. Arturia looked at Frankie who was running away and asked, "Does Moran need me to stop him?" Moran glanced at the two sisters who were stunned by his Haki, and thought to himself, they were abandoned by Frankie just like that, and they are all flying separately in the face of disaster. Moran said to Arturia, "If he can't run away, I'll go after him first, and you just follow behind." Clap. After finishing speaking, Moran turned into a bolt of lightning and quickly soared into the sky. Frankie heard the crackling sound behind him, turned his head and took a look, his hair stood on his head, and cold sweat dripped down his face. Clap. Boom. Frankie was directly struck by a thunderbolt, his hair stood up one by one, his mouth was smoldering, his eyes were round. Boom. Frankie fell straight on the ground, tried hard to get up, but all ended in failure. Pat. Moran fell to the ground, stepped forward and stomped hard. Bump. With a face full of sarcasm, he said, "You should keep running." Frankie's face was dark, and he didn't know whether he was blackened by anger or by lightning and shouted, "You be asterisk 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 D. I will never say it, you don't want to get the design drawing." Moran said indifferently, "Actually, I can get it without your consent, but it will be boring. Design drawings, just hide them in your chest." When Frankie heard this, his face changed greatly and he roared angrily, "How did you know that, you be asterisk 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 D? I never told anyone about this. You don't have a good memory, you don't forget what I said before." Can everything on the island escape his attention? It seems he didn't lie to me. Frankie thought to himself. Then will you bring it out, or shall I do it myself? Moran took Arturia and walked slowly towards the place where the boat was parked, dragging Frankie. A long trail was dragged on the ground. Frankie dragged the ground and slipped out. 2.9 Moran looked at the silent Frankie, who was not a bad guy. He raised his foot and stomped it down hard. Frankie was secretly happy when he saw that Moran couldn't find the mechanism. Moran didn't stop until Frankie was knocked unconscious. Bump. Grab one of Frankie's feet and just drag him along. Please subscribe. Ask for Wawa. Ask for a monthly pass. Frankie asked as if resigned to his fate, "What do you want this thing for?" At this time, Arturia asked. Moran said without hiding anything, "Actually, it's nothing, I don't want to use it, but to prevent someone from using this thing against me in the future." "Come on, let's go back to the boat. Moran, have you dealt with it yet?" Frankie said madly, "If you want it, you can get it yourself, I won't give it to you." Ha ha ha. Moran was a little puzzled and said, "This guy refused to speak for life and death, so I had to take him back and let Luo take out the things." Bump. Moran stepped forward and searched for a while, but couldn't find the mechanism, and asked with an ugly face, "Are you sure you don't want to take it out?" Chapter 107. Ruin, Pluton Blueprints. Interesting for you. Selena Gomez posts powerful bikini then and now. More. 349. 87. 116. Soon after, Moran dragged Frankie to the seaside port. Everyone came back one after another, and Moran glanced at a few who hadn't come back yet. Seeing Robin Moran sitting gracefully on the boat and reading a book, he asked, "Did Robin have a good time today?" Hearing Moran's voice, Robin raised his head and took a look, and said with a little evasive eyes, "Thank you, Captain, for your concern. I had a great time today." Moran touched her head with a smile and said, "You don't have to worry that I will blame you. I know what happened to you today. It is your freedom to make decisions. I will not interfere with your thoughts. I don't want to. A group of crew who don't even have a mind of their own, get it?" Robin showed a bright smile, eyes narrowed into a line and said, "I know the captain." Moran looked around the ship, but didn't see Luo and asked, "Robin, our ship doctor, hasn't come back yet. He went to buy medical equipment, but he hasn't come back yet. What can you do with him, Captain?" Moran pointed to Frankie lying on the shore and said, "There is something in him that I want, and I need to use Luo's ability to take it out." Da da da. Blue Bonnie was holding a bunch of things, trotting back all the way, and said while running, "Moran big brother, look what I bought for you. Clothes, snacks, fruits, all there." Blue Bonnie ran to Moran to claim credit, took out one thing after another, with a little expression like you are going to praise me. Moran touched her little head helplessly and said, "Bonnie, don't keep thinking about buying me so many things, you should also think about what you want, and buy what you want. If you don't have enough money, tell me, let's not short of money, you know." Blue Bonnie was killed by Moran's pat on the head, squinting his eyes in enjoyment and said, "I know Moran big brother, but I don't have anything in particular, so I bought everything for you. Okay, I'll put the things in the room for you first, and then don't cook. You should be hungry." Robin looked at the Blue Bonnie walking away, and joked, "Captain, you are really lucky." Moran glanced at it, and said in a strange way, if someone can treat me like Bonnie, it will be a blessing. It's a pity that someone knows how to PS me off all the time. If I get P******** D off one day, she will only be a widow. Robin rolled his eyes and continued to read, obviously not wanting to continue talking to this shameless captain. At this moment, Dr. Luo Chuan came back, so Moran stopped arguing with Robin, walked over and said, come here, Luo, I need you to deal with something. Luo asked suspiciously, what's the matter, Captain Moran? Moran pointed to Frankie at his feet and said, the guy at your feet has something hidden in his chest. Use your ability to open his chest and take it out for me. I know, I'll be fine soon. Room. A small tornado appeared in Luo's palm facing down, and it quickly expanded to 10 meters, and he and Frankie were both caged in C. Scanning. Pat. Moran saw a stack of thick paper falling into Luo's hand, with various complex patterns on it, and the text was incomprehensible. It should be the same ancient text as the historical text. Luo raised his head and looked at Moran on the boat and asked, the captain only has this strange thing on him, and the others are some coke and other things. Is this what you want? That's right, it's this thing, come up and give it to me. This kind of writing Moran knew it was true without asking, after all, there are not many people who understand this kind of writing now. After handing over the design drawings to Moran, Luo asked, Captain, what should we do with this man, let him go or kill him? Moran thought for a while and said, you can think of a way to keep him from waking up too quickly. I still need to deal with some things. I can't let him wake up during this period. Can it be done? Luo said without thinking. This is very simple, the captain can wake up whenever you want him to. Moran was very satisfied with the ship doctor, patted Luo on the shoulder and said, good job, it's not in vain for me to collect medical books for you everywhere, you can drink this stuff. Moran gave him a bottle of physique strengthening potion. Blue Bonnie sent a bottle to several weaker Morans. They don't need to be strong on his boat, but they need to be able to protect themselves. Luo held the bottle and asked suspiciously, what is this, Captain? That's a potion that can enhance your physical strength. Don't worry, there will be no side effects. It just so happens that Luo's fruit ability consumes a lot of stamina. With this, he should be able to improve a lot of strength. Quote. Captain, okay. Don't be hypocritical, do what you should do. He couldn't stand a big man looking at him like that, Moran interrupted hastily. It's Captain Moran. Moran himself has used this potion, but for a strong man of his level, it has little effect and one person can only use it once. Moran came to Robin and said, Robin, can you change these words and patterns so that others can't see it, but the meaning is changed. He can't use it, so he wants to destroy it, but he can't destroy it in his own hands, because others will suspect that he destroyed the fake one and keep the real one. Now the plot is messed up. If he releases it to prevent accidents, he plans to change it. Put it back, so that even if it is taken by others, Pluton cannot be made. Robin took a look at the drawing and said, you can change it a little so that others can't see it. What kind of design drawing is this? Good, Lan said without concealment. Pluton design drawings. Deep. Robin screamed, covered his mouth quickly, took a deep breath, and asked after his emotion stabilized, Captain, are you sure you want to destroy it? This thing is a hot potato, we don't need it, and I don't want it to fall into other people's hands, so destroying it is the best way. Give me a little time, if you want others to not see it, you need to make it old. When Robin heard this, he also felt that it made sense, and after saying a word, he took a pen and started to write and draw on the drawings. Moran did not expect that this world also has the technology of making old. Seeing that Robin started to get busy, he didn't bother her anymore. He moved a deck chair and lay down on it. The salted fish basked in the sun and Sao Lan squinted his eyes comfortably. Chapter 108. Attack in the Dark. Moran basked comfortably in the sun on the deck chair and squinted for a while. At this time Robin came over, gently pushed Moran and said, Captain, what you asked me to change has already been changed, please see if it works, if not, I will change it. Moran was a little surprised. Is it changed so quickly? Actually, it's not difficult to change this. You can see if it works. After speaking, Robin handed over the drawings to Moran. Moran looked at it for a while, and said with emotion, you don't call it a change, it looks like the real thing. Robin smiled and said, it's fine if you're satisfied. Is there anything else for the captain? If there's nothing else, I'll read the book first. It's okay. You go about your business. Moran stood up and walked to Luo's room. Luo just came out. The two met halfway. Moran ordered. Luo, you go and put this thing back into that guy's body. I know the captain. Room. Luo came to Frankie's side, squatted down, and a small tornado appeared in his hand again, expanding to 10 meters before stopping. Scanning. After putting it away, Luo turned his head and said, the captain has already been put in. Do you need to wake him up now? Wake him up. Luo didn't know what to drink for him. Frankie Nuanyuan opened his eyes and looked around in a daze. Frankie, who came back to his senses, quickly lowered his head to check the position of his chest, and was relieved to see that it was still intact. Moran pretended to be ugly and said, you don't need to look if you're still inside, I really want to take you out. Frankie asked a little surprised, oh, then why didn't you do it? Although I'm not a good person, this thing is not worth my killing and snatching. Get out of here when you wake up. Moran said with a righteous look on his face. Although Frankie couldn't understand why Moran suddenly decided not to design the Pluton drawings, he was sure that it was definitely not what Moran said. Knowing that there was no danger, Frankie started yelling again. Do you think this uncle wants to come here? You didn't catch me here, you be asterisk 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 D. Moran's face gradually darkened, and he threatened. Since you don't want to leave, then don't leave. Luo dismembered him and took out the contents of his body. When Frankie heard this, his face was instantly pale and bloodless. Seeing Luo approaching slowly with a knife, he ran away scrambling and shouting, I'm leaving now. Go. Don't come here, don't come here. Seeing Frankie running away, Robin came to Moran and asked, Captain, do you think this guy will be destroyed, or will he be caught by the World ZF and get the design drawings? Moran thought for a while and said, originally he would be destroyed, but because I interfered, now even I don't know about it. Robin kept aiming at Moran, and asked, Captain, you don't know what happened, do you? Moran leaned close to her ear, blew a sigh of relief and said with a smirk, if you want to know, remember not to lock the door. Robin looked at Moran in front of him, and said angrily, Captain, how can you be so shameless? It's fine if you don't want to say it, I don't want to know yet. After Robin finished speaking, he turned around, twisted her waist, stepped on her high heels, and went back to lie down and read a book. Da da da. Blue Bonnie peeked out a small head from the kitchen door and shouted, everyone come and eat, it's ready. Arturia was the first to go over and asked, what delicious food did Bonnie cook today? Immediately after, Chatong, a snack foodie, asked, does Bonnie cook delicious meat? Moran said speechlessly, don't ask so many questions, just go in and see for yourself, won't you know? I didn't think there was anything just now, but after Blue Bonnie asked someone to eat, he realized that he hadn't eaten all day, and he had been feeding Arturia all day, and after shopping for another day, his chest was stuck to his back, these two were still chattering. Slightly. The two turned their heads at the same time, made a funny face for Moran, and quickly rushed to the restaurant. In their eyes, the big rice is the biggest thing, and everyone else has to stand aside. During the meal, Robin asked, Captain, we will set sail tomorrow, or when will we set sail? Moran thought of Annie's lobby, I don't know if Luffy will go this time, this is really uncertain. Ask for flowers. Tomorrow will be discussed tomorrow, but I haven't thought about it yet. Go and see tomorrow to see if they will go to Annie's lobby. If Frankie and Luffy see each other in advance, there is a possibility that they will go. After dinner, everyone wandered around, and Moran quietly came to the roof of the Carrera Company. He wanted to see if the iceberg would be attacked without Robin tonight. Moran saw a person sneaking into Iceberg's room, swiped it with hockey, and felt the breath of Rob Lucci. It turned out to be this guy. He saw other CP members today and thought he was the one who attacked Iceberg. It's that group of people. Boom. He shot without saying a word, and Bingshan didn't even react, and fell to the ground. What a cold-blooded guy. 0. Hi, Rob Lucci. Long time no see, I miss you so much. Moran squatted on the roof and watched who came out, and Rob Lucci said hello. Rob Lucci's body froze when he heard the voice, his neck stiffened and he raised his head to see Moran on the roof, and said in a deep voice, Shichibukai Alfad Moran, what are you doing here? Moran said nonsense casually. I went out for a walk after I was full, and I happened to see you sneaking around, so I followed you to have a look. I didn't expect to catch up with a good show. Rob Lucci's face under the mask gradually became ugly, so you have seen it all. Moran said sarcastically, so what if you see it? Why, you still want to keep me? Rob Lucci clenched his fists and wanted to make a move several times, but he endured it all. He knew that the only way to make a move was to be killed or caught. There was no third possibility, so he turned around without saying a word and went straight. Moran watched Rob Lucci walk away, and didn't stop him anyway. Clap. After watching the fun, Moran turned into a bolt of lightning and appeared 1,000 meters away in an instant. Several flashes had already appeared on the boat. It was already late and everyone on board had rested. Remembering what he said to Robin today, Moran walked to the door of Robin's room, tried to unlock the door, and Mo Lan quickly slipped in. Chapter 109. The Crying Tornado. Interesting for you. Selena Gomez posts powerful bikini then and now. More. 897. 224. 299. The next morning, with two panda eyes on his face, Robin nodded tiredly, and shouted at Moran beside him, get out of here. 11. It turned out that Moran couldn't fall asleep after returning, so he took Robin to chat and chatted about his life ideals all night. Moran was kicked out by Robin early in the morning, and walked to the deck as if nothing had happened. Several people were already sitting on the railing and chatting. Lan Bonnie, who was preparing breakfast in the kitchen, revealed a small head when he heard the movement, and asked suspiciously, Moran big brother, why did you make Sister Robin angry again? Moran said angrily, go. Children, why are you asking about the affairs of adults? Everyone on the deck looked at Moran, covering their mouths and giggling, their shoulders trembling. Moran glanced around, and everyone was covering their mouths. Even a fool would know why, and he said speechlessly, laugh if you want to laugh. Isn't it uncomfortable to hold back? I thought to myself. I was just kicked out, you single bastards, if you want to be kicked out at 21, probably no one will kick you out. Thinking of this made me feel much more comfortable. Moran didn't even eat breakfast, and went directly to the interior of the island. He was laughed at by so many people, no matter how thick his skin was, he couldn't stand it. Moran hadn't gone far when he suddenly felt his back sink, and he knew who it was without looking back. Reluctantly said, "Tornado, can't you get down and walk by yourself? This little girl never touched the ground, either on him or floating in the air." "Don't. The ground is dirty, I don't want to go down." Long Wan seemed to be in a bad mood today, and said in a low voice that the whole person was lying on top of him. The tornado was on his back, and Moran had no choice but to go shopping with him on his back. Moran had been covering the entire island with knowledge. The whole island is quiet, but people in the dark are about to move around. Last night, Bingshan Moran glanced at his body and found that he was not dead just like the plot. It is estimated that CP9 will attack Bingshan today. As Moran was walking, he suddenly felt as if rainwater was dripping on his neck. He raised his head and looked up at the sky in doubt. The sky was clear and there was no rain. At this time, Tornado said suddenly, "Moran, I miss my sister. I don't know what happened to her in another world. Without my protection, I don't know if she will be bullied." Moran pulled her from his back to his front and asked, "Tornado, are you crying?" He felt strange just now. Where did the water come from if it didn't rain? It turned out to be the tears of the tornado. Long Wan's eyes were evasive, his little head was turned aside, he didn't dare to look at him, and he said stiffly, "HMPH. How could I cry?" Moran straightened her head and looked at her red eyes, it was obvious that she had just cried. "Are you homesick? Tell me if you miss home. I can take you back, but there is a time limit." Hearing this, Tornado's eyes lit up, and he asked happily, "Really? Can I really go back?" Moran wiped away tears from Tornado, and said, "Of course I can summon you, and of course I can take you back, but there is a time limit, and I can't stay there for too long." Long Wan cheered happily, and just hugged him and slapped him. He blushed and asked, "Then, Moran, when shall we go?" Moran thought for a while and said, "When I finish my work here, I will take you back for a stroll when I have time. Don't cry, your crying face is blurred, it's as ugly as a little cat." After the summit war is over, he can almost be free, and it would be good to use the world travel card, One Punch Man, to play at that time. I don't know how his strength is in that world. Moran saw that he had recovered again, and the lively and lovely Tornado in the past said, "We will continue to stroll for a while and then go back. Today, you are allowed to hang on me. Come up." Long Wan turned his head and looked aside and said, "I don't care about it." After finishing speaking, he floated back and forth in front alone, attracting passers-by to watch. The two of them wandered around and came to the door Carrera Company. Moran suddenly wanted to meet the head of the iceberg. "Tongjuan, I'm going to do something inside, do you want to go with me?" Tornado was enjoying himself so much that he didn't have time to talk to him. "Forget it, let's go by ourselves." Just approaching, someone suddenly shouted, "The iceberg master has woken up." Moran walked directly inside, and when someone blocked the way, he glanced at it, and soon Moran walked to the door of Bingshan's room. Khalifa lowered her head and looked gloomy, watching the noise in the room, she remained silent from beginning to end. "Who are you?" Hearing this, a reporter immediately quit, and anxiously shouted, "Why do you let us go out? We are reporters who managed to grab this opportunity to interview Chief Bingshan. How can 660 go out?" "Guji, hey, you don't want to die. He is 7 warlords of the Sea Alphad Moran, if you want to die, don't drag us." Knowing that she was discovered, Khalifa stood up and stepped back, keeping a distance away from Moran before saying, "You are sexually harassing me." Khalifa glared at him, but obediently went out and stood in the corridor. "If you don't want to die, go out, if you want to die, I can give you a ride," Moran said expressionlessly. Snapped. Moran stepped forward and kicked each of them out of the room. They all lay down in the corridor and stopped next to Khalifa. He had already realized that the chick was pretending to be dizzy, so Moran squatted down and slapped her down. The reporter asked dumbfounded, Is he Shichibukai?" Another reporter next to him shouted angrily, trembling all over. Bingshan looked at Moran who walked in with a serious face and said, "If I don't know you, I don't deserve to be the head of the Shi. What's the matter with you coming to see me?" Seeing a few people moaning, Moran conquerors swept over, and the whole room was filled with pressure immediately. People with no strength fell to the ground one after another. Khalifa broke out in cold sweat, watching the people around him faint, he also pretending to be unable to withstand the wobble, he closed his eyes and fell to the ground. Moran didn't answer him, but looked at several people in the room and said, "Everyone, I want to have a private talk with Mr. Bing. I wonder if you can go out for a while." The two guards at the gate were about to come up to intercept and were stunned by Moran's conquerors. Pushing open the door, there were several people standing inside, as well as Bingshan lying on the bed. Moran said first, "Mr. Bingshan, do you need me to introduce myself?" Moran said mockingly, "Are you going to get up by yourself, or let me help you?" Chapter 110. Pack and sell CP9 for revenge. Moran walked over to close the door, turned around and looked at Bingshan and said, "Mr. Bingshan, I want to make a deal with you. I wonder if you are interested." Bingshan refused directly without thinking. "I won't make any deal with a pirate, you should find someone else." After speaking, he shouted to the door, "Khalifa sees off the guests." Moran looked at the iceberg with a speechless face. He looked like he was dying when he came in, but now he can yell again. It seems that this guy's injury is not as serious as imagined. Seeing Khalifa walking in, Moran asked blankly, "Did I let you in?" Khalifa froze on the spot, at a loss, neither going in nor going out, not knowing what to do for a while. Bingshan couldn't stand it and said, "You go out first." After Khalifa went out, Bingshan said, "I still say the same thing, I have nothing to trade with you." Moran said slowly, "Pluton's blueprints, and the undercover agent that the world's ZF has placed beside you." What? 103. After hearing these two news, Bingshan coughed repeatedly. "I won't talk about the design of Pluton, you should know better than me, let's talk about the undercover thing." Bingshan asked with an ugly face, "How do you know this? You are not sent by them, are you?" Moran started his trickery and said, "You don't have to doubt that I am from the ZF of the world. If I want the Pluton design, I caught Frankie last night and I already got it." Finally, Bingshan no longer had a dead face, but roared anxiously, "What did you do to Frankie?" "I let him go last night, don't worry." Moran looked at the sitting up iceberg, really afraid that he would die of anger. Hearing that Frankie was fine, Bingshan regained his composure and asked, "What deal do you want to make with me?" Moran smiled and said, "Give me all the information about the CP9 members that the world's ZF has placed beside you, give me 10 billion Baileys, how about I give you all the information?" Moran has had no income for a long time, and urgently needs to make a fortune. When he passed by the Carrera company, he suddenly remembered that this guy manages a city and is the president of a company, so he should be very rich. In addition, the people from CP9 made trouble for him yesterday, so he came up with an idea to make money and take revenge on CP9 by selling all the information of CP9 to Bingshan. Moran is very vindictive, it's not a gentleman not to take revenge. Bingshan thought for a while and said, "How do you know that people from the world's ZF are planted beside me?" Moran started talking nonsense. "Mr. Bingshan, tell me, what did I do before I became a pirate? Even if you were a marine before, it is impossible to come into contact with these things, and this kind of thing must only be known by the top leaders of the ZF in the world." Moran cursed secretly. Maid is not easy to fool. Ordinary marines can't touch it, of course, but I'm a student of Zephyr, and the office of Marshal Marine is just like my home. It's not surprising that I come into contact with these things, right? Bingshan was a little moved, but still said, "I want to think about it for a few days, and I will give you an answer in a few days." It's too troublesome for Mada to talk about things with these business people, but the mentally retarded Marshal is cuter, rich and powerful and playful. Moran said casually, "In a few days, I may only be able to talk to your corpse. You don't think what happened last night is a general revenge?" Bingshan asked with a dark face, "Could it be that group of undercover CP9 did what you said last night?" "You've already figured it out, why me? In fact, you don't need to ask him to know the answer, CBBB, he usually doesn't have enemies to eliminate enemies, the only one who wants him to die should be ZF, who has always wanted the design of Pluton." Thinking of this, Bingshan shouted directly to the door, "Khalifa, come in." Da da da. Khalifa twisted her waist, walked in with high heels and asked, "President, why did you ask me to come in?" Bingshan directly ordered, "You go and prepare 10 billion Baileys and send them to me here." "I know the president." Khalifa walked out without asking any questions. When passing by Moran, Moran said to himself, meaning, "This is the Bailey I want. If you dare to make any wrong thoughts, I will sink you all into the sea." When Moran saw Bingshan saying 10 billion Bailey with a relaxed face, he immediately doubted his life. Is he going to be short again? In fact, Moran was thinking too much. Bing Yamamoto wanted to keep him aside and talk about the price in a few days. This is a trick used by businessmen, but thinking that they had already done it last night, although he was attacked and survived, but no one knows when they will come again next time, so he can't wait anymore. Then Moran chatted with Bingshan casually. The color of knowledge has been covering the entire island, and has been observing Khalifa. She just took out the phone bug and wanted to report the information here. Boom. Suddenly a thunderbolt struck the ground beside her, and when the dust slowly dissipated, Khalifa finally regained her sight. About 3 meters away from her, a deep pit within 10 meters on the ground was covered with scorched earth and pitch black. One slice. A drop of cold sweat ran down Khalifa's forehead, and he whispered, "If this hits her, she will probably be vaporized in just one blow." She knew who did it, and then she didn't dare to have other thoughts, and obediently went to find some people to move Bailey here. Moran was overjoyed to see the boxes of Bailey being brought in, and it didn't take long for the room to be full of boxes. After seeing Bailey move the iceberg, he said, "You all get out." After Khalifa led the people out of the room, Bingshan said, "Bailey is here, where is your information?" Moran walked to the table, picked up a pen and brushed it a few times, wrote all the names of CP9 members on it, handed it to Bingshan and said, "This is the list of all CP9 members who are lurking around you. Their strength is very important to you. It's quite strong. With your ability and contacts, you can only die against them." After putting Bailey away, Moran said, "That's right, for Bailey's sake, I'm telling you bad news, Frankie should have been exposed." Clap. After finishing speaking, Moran directly turned into a thunderbolt, flew out of the window, and came to the tornado in a few flashes. Chapter 111. To Annie's lobby, to Robin. Moran flashed a few times, came behind Tornado and said, "Tornado, we should go back, haven't you played enough yet?" Tornado turned his head and opened his arms, with a little expression you know. Moran had no choice but to pick up the tornado and walk towards the boat. He has been observing the island today, but CP9 seems to be not ready to do anything, and everything is hidden, probably the reason why he appeared in front of Rob Lucci last night. He thought to himself, forget it, it's better not to join in the fun. If he is here for one day, they will never fight. As soon as Moran returned to the side of the boat, Blue Bonnie happily came to the railing to say hello and asked, Moran big brother, why did you come back so early today? Moran casually said Kaido. I wanted to go to see the excitement, but I came back after I didn't fight. 323. Bonnie, are you, Sister Robin, up? Not up yet, she didn't even get up for lunch. Hearing this, Moran was a little worried. When he came to the door of Robin's room, he opened the door and walked in. He saw that Chuan Jian was sleeping under the blanket. After seeing nothing for a while, I thought to myself, maybe I was too tired from not sleeping last night, so I won't bother her. Moran searched the room for a while, found a permanent pointer and walked out. Van Oka set sail, this is what you are in charge of as a navigator today. After finishing speaking, he threw the eternal pointer to Van Oka and warned, cheer up, if you take the wrong course, I will throw you into the sea to feed the fish, do you hear me? Hearing Moran's words, Van Oka's face was ashen, and he dared not speak out. Then he tremblingly stood on the observation deck, and glanced at the permanent pointer, every once in a while. He did not dare to be sloppy at all, really able to come out and throw him into the sea to feed the fish. Open black lens bracket near Eni's lobby at night, close black lens bracket. Wanjian pirates, the pirate ship is sailing slowly. After dinner, Moran did not lie down, but sat on the railing to fish. There was an extra large fishing rod and a line for extra large fish. Not to mention fishing, it was more than enough to catch sea kings. The bait, Fan Orca. At this time, Fan Orca looked unrequited, his hands and feet were tied, half of his body was soaked in the sea, and half of his body was floating on the sea, begging for mercy. Captain, please forgive me this time. Excuse me, can you tell me where this is? Van Orca stammered, this is the Eni's lobby. Moran roared, are you an idiot if you can deviate from the course with a permanent pointer? Moran thought that there is a permanent pointer, so he should not deviate from the channel. During the time Robin was sleeping, he told Van Oka to follow the permanent pointer. Unexpectedly, Van Oka brought them near the Eni's lobby, and Robin got up only to find out that the course was deviated. Van Oka murmured in a low voice, I don't know who took the wrong route last time. I'm still the same, and you still blame me. Moran heard Van Oka's muttering, and he let go of Van Oka's body and sank into the sea. Gulululu. Van Oka, you can speak louder, it doesn't matter, I don't care about it at all. Gulululu. The crowd watching the excitement kept rolling their eyes, don't you care what hand you let go? Blue Bonnie couldn't stand it any longer, and helped to speak. Moran big brother knows he's wrong, so let him come up. Call out, huh, huh. Van Oka was pulled up by Moran, lying on the deck gasping for breath, looking at Moran with resentment. Moran glared at him, and said angrily, what are you looking at? Haven't soaked enough, and want to go down for a while. Fan Oka, who had just been untied from the rope, jumped up in fright, away from this shameless captain. Moran didn't care about this resentful guy, but looked at the island shadow not far away. Eni's lobby was still a little far away from them and it was night, so he could only vaguely see a little light on the island shadow. Moran twisted the extra large fishing line in his hand into two whips, and two masks appeared in his hand, which were bought in the capital of Seven Waters. After finishing these, he looked at Robin and said, Robin, put this on, I will take you there Eni's lobby for fun. After putting on the mask, Robin asked, Captain, what are we doing at Eni's lobby? Moran smiled mysteriously, you will know later. After speaking, he hugged Robin by the waist, and the green energy shot up from his body instantly, flying towards Eni's lobby. Not long after, Moran took Robin and landed on the top of the tallest building in Eni's lobby. After scanning around, he found that Spandam was busy in the office. After Moran handed the whip to Robin, he instructed, you take this, Robin, and you can whip it as hard as you want after a while, and you don't care about the rest, do you understand? Robin was still in a daze, and was about to ask, but Moran had already jumped down with her. Bump. When he came to a window, Moran raised his foot and kicked the glass, which shattered and shards of glass flew everywhere. Spandam was sitting at his desk and was processing documents. When he saw two people breaking in through the window, he jumped up and screamed. Moran stepped forward and asked, Spandam, your father's name is Spandane, right? Looking at the two masked people in front of him, Spandam thought to himself, it seems that the person who came to him wearing a mask is not kind. Thinking of this, Spandam directly mentioned his father and threatened, that's right, Spandane is my father. My father is a high-level government official in the world. If you dare to attack me, my father will not let you go. Moran turned his head and looked at 2.0 Robin with a smile and said, I don't need to introduce Robin, right? Although it's not Spandane, but you beat his son first to vent your anger, and I will take you to the Holy Land to take revenge in the future. Robin gritted his teeth and said, father and son, even if they were turned into ashes, I would still know each other. Moran walked towards Spandam and said, I'll beat him up first, you're hitting him to vent your anger. What do you want to do? I tell you this is Eni's lobby, if you dare to touch me, don't even try to run away. Seeing Moran approaching, Spandam threatened very hard at first. Boom. But seeing that Moran was unmoved, he backed away in a panic, tripped over the chair behind him and sat down on the ground. Chapter 112. Moran raids Eni's lobby. Moran swished his whip, and with each whip he lashed towards Spandam. Snapped. Oh. Moran looked at Spandam who was rolling all over the floor with a speechless face, and he would hit him directly so that he would be in pain and not unconscious, so that this guy would not faint before Robin vented his anger. Seeing Moran approaching again, Spandam crawled back with fear on his face, stammering, "You, don't come here. Break off children and grandchildren." Bump. Moran came to Spandam, in an instant, raised his foot, and stomped down hard, hitting the root of his life. Crack. Moran vaguely heard something shattering. What? Spandam's expression gradually distorted, his hands were covering his crotch, his body curled up, like a pig screaming. You can see the pain of Spandam at this time. Eventually, lying on the ground moaning continuously. Moran saw that it was almost done, so he said to Robin, "Robin, come here and beat him. He probably doesn't dare to resist." Robin looked at Moran with a weird look on his face. He was full of hatred just now, but after what Moran did, she couldn't help but want to wait now. Moran looked at Robin, who was in a daze, and urged, "Robin, don't be in a daze, hurry up and beat him with a whip. I'll go to the door and block the soldiers coming for you." Seeing Moran go out, Robin took the whip and whipped it hard, leaving only the screams of Spandam in the room. What? Da da da. As soon as Moran walked into the corridor, he heard footsteps approaching quickly. "Who are you?" The soldiers who rushed over saw a masked man standing at the door, and asked immediately. "What?" Hearing the screams in the room, one of the leading Colonel Marine commanded, "Rush in and save people, don't care who this guy is. If something happens to Commander Spandam, we'll all die. If you want to pass by me, you probably can't do it." After finishing speaking, Moran walked towards a group of Marine soldiers step by step before they rushed over, his eyes flashed red in circles, and the Conqueror's hockey swept them with full firepower. Bang, 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 click, click. The soldiers blocked in the corridor fell down one after another, and spider web cracks appeared on the surrounding walls. Moran's conquerors didn't stop spreading, and rushed in all directions, and the soldiers outside also fell to the ground. The entire Enies lobby was still awake and uncertain. Boom. Colonel Marine knelt down on one foot, struggling to keep himself from falling down, with an ugly face and cold sweat streaming down his face. Colonel Marine asked with an ugly face, "Who the hell are you?" Moran said speechlessly, "Are you afraid you are a fool?" Moran obviously wears a mask because he doesn't want others to know who he is, and if he asks this kind of question, he won't leave evidence for others, and he doesn't want to lose the title of Shichibukai yet. Colonel Marine heard the commotion inside getting smaller and smaller, and roared anxiously, "I don't care who you are, get out of the way immediately." Moran quipped, "Get out of the way. Do you think that's possible?" The colonel stood up with difficulty, drew out his knife and rushed over, slashing at Moran's head fiercely. One shot beheading. Moran covered hockey with his fingers and caught the knife directly. Clang. UB***********D, let me go. Colonel Marine exerted all his strength, and he couldn't even move his knife. Looking at Moran, who was not tall but full of oppression, a drop of cold sweat flowed down his forehead. Moran didn't want to talk to such idiots anymore. If he was infected and became mentally retarded, it would be a big loss. His feet quickly turned black, and he flew up and kicked Colonel Marine's chest fiercely. Bump. Boom. Colonel Marine was kicked and flew upside down, hitting the wall at the end of the corridor, bleeding from all 7 orifices and slipping down limply. After seeing that there was no one around who could stand up, Moran scanned around with knowledge, closed his eyes, and immediately had a panoramic view of the entire Enies lobby. God's punishment. Raising the arm that turned into thunder, thunder and lightning flashed in the sky outside. The Marine soldiers who were rushing over here all stopped and looked up at the sky's path. What is going on in the sky? Clap. Boom. Boom. What? As soon as a soldier finished speaking, thunder and lightning fell, and the surrounding Marine soldiers fell one after another. Not good. Run away now. A group of Marine soldiers began to flee in all directions, but they were not as fast as thunder and lightning. As the thunder and lightning fell, the number of people became smaller and smaller. A Marine soldier couldn't run anymore, so he stopped and said, "I can't run anymore, you run." Clap. Boom. Donkey hide gelatin. As soon as the Marine soldier finished speaking, a bolt of lightning struck down. The people standing not far from him watched him being struck by the lightning, but there was nothing they could do. The others didn't dare to stay longer and continued to run. No matter how fast they run, the thunder and lightning are like their shadows, following them everywhere. We can't run away. These thunderbolts seem to have eyes, and they have been following us. A Marine soldier sat down on the ground and said. Hearing this, the other Marine soldiers hesitated for a moment, and sat down on the ground directly. They also felt that it was meaningless to run or not. A leading lieutenant colonel roared, "Get up. Wang Deshao, lightning can't strike people inside the house, we just need to run inside the house." The eyes of the people sitting on the ground lit up when they heard this, and seeing hope again, they all got up and continued to run. It didn't take long for them to hide in the house. After waiting for a while without lightning strikes, everyone felt safe, and a Marine soldier praised, "Lieutenant Colonel Yi Langping is still smart enough to think of such a way." Yes, 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 yes. As expected, Yi Langping is the lieutenant colonel. Others also echoed. Everyone's face is full of the look of the rest of the life after the catastrophe. Moran saw them hiding and didn't continue to drive towards him, so he ignored them. Crunch time. At this time Robin also opened the door and came out. Moran glanced inside. That guy probably doesn't even recognize his father. Chapter 113. Moran despised by Newsbird. Selena Gomez posts powerful bikini then and now. More. 563. 141. 188. Moran looked at Robin, and asked with a smile, "How about Robin, does it feel better to beat him up?" Robin threw away the bloody whip, rushed towards Moran quickly, threw himself into his arms and thanked. Thank you, little captain. Moran said speechlessly, why the little captain? Without even thinking about it, Robin said bluntly, because you are young. Moran lowered his head and glanced a little suspiciously, and said puzzledly, I don't think it's too young. Puff. Ha 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 ha. Moran looked at the belly-laughing Robin, who had no lady image. He also recalled it, so she was talking about age. Robin laughed for a long time before complaining. Captain, you are too cute. Looking at Robin, who couldn't stop smiling, Moran thought secretly, it seems that we have to find a chance to cure her. This Sister Yu is becoming more and more lawless now. After thinking about 100 ways of revenge in his mind, Moran went directly outside. No matter how good the revenge is, he has to go back to implement it. Captain, wait for me, don't be angry. Robin looked at Moran, who was slowly walking away, trotted to follow, and jumped up when he came to Moran's back, wrapped his arms around Moran's neck and whispered in his ear, my sister is happy tonight, I promise you previous unreasonable demands. When Moran heard Robin's words, the green light in his eyes was particularly obvious at night, and he asked like a wolf's eyes, really? Robin blushed slightly, but still showed the momentum of Yuji and said, this is the reward you gave me for revenge tonight, only this time, don't make an exception. While the two were talking for a while, they had already walked out of the building, and green energy burst out from Moran's body, soaring into the sky in an instant. Moran, who was flying in the air, asked, Robin, why don't you kill that guy? Hearing this, Robin didn't answer, but tightly hugged Moran's hands, and the whole person leaned against his back in silence. Robin didn't kill Spandam. She thought it would be too cheap for him to let Spandam die like this, so Robin kept this neither male nor female Spandam, let him continue to live in pain to redeem his sins. Robin thought to himself. Robin obviously didn't want to mention these things. Moran didn't ask any more questions, and quickly flew towards the pirate ship with her on his back. It didn't take long for Moran to return to the empty space of the ship. Everyone was waiting on the deck for them to come back. None of them slept. Moran went to the Eni's lobby without bringing any strong ones with him. These guys are obviously worried about them. Thinking of this, Moran's heart warmed, and he shouted loudly, everyone, I'm back. Pat. As soon as Moran landed on the boat, Blue Bonnie ran over and asked, Moran big brother, what are you doing at Eni's lobby? After putting Robin down, Moran casually said, your sister Robin has an enemy at Eni's lobby, I took her to revenge. It's getting late, everyone go to rest. Moran thought that there was still something to do tonight, so he hurriedly urged everyone to go to rest, and everyone went back to the room to rest one after another. Moran big brother, you went to Eni's lobby, did you meet anything interesting? Tell me about it. Looking at Lan Bonnie, who was still holding his arm and asking questions, Moran said helplessly, Bonnie is obedient and go to rest, I will tell you tomorrow, okay. Okay then. Lan Bonnie was reluctant, and walked towards his room step by step. Moran was speechless for a while, this little girl is not usually very curious. Seeing that there was no one around, Moran said with a smirk, Robin, let's go to rest too. Robin looked at Moran's appearance, rolled his eyes speechlessly, and walked into the room, and Moran quickly followed. Bang. The door closes. Tonight is bound to be a sleepless night. 10,000 words omitted here. Near Sabayati Archipelago in a few days. A news bird quacked across the sky. On the sea, Wanjian pirates is sailing slowly towards the Sabayati Archipelago. The people on the boat are sitting together in small groups, chatting idly. Moran is lying on a deck chair, basking in the sun like a salted fish. From time to time, a small hand brings a peeled grape to his mouth. He stretches out his hand for food and opens his mouth for clothes. What a life like a fairy. At this time, seeing a news bird quacking across the sky, Moran didn't want to move, but wanted to read the newspaper, so he shouted directly, Bonnie, go buy a newspaper. Blue Bonnie showed a small head from the kitchen and said, Moran big brother, I'm cooking, let someone else buy it. Moran turned his head to look at the group of people sitting together, and shouted, whoever of you buy me a newspaper, the captain will give me a reward. Newsbird took out a newspaper from the small backpack and gave it to Moran with a look of disdain. If it could talk, it would definitely say, you are 7 warlords of the sea, and you don't even have the money to buy a newspaper, this little bird I despise you. Seeing Moran's dark face like the bottom of a pot, Van Oka didn't dare to yell. ... Please subscribe. Please ask for flowers. Please ask for monthly ticket mountain. Thump. Van Oka asked weakly. The captain doesn't allow anyone to eat, does that include you? Ha 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 ha. Moran stood up with a dark face, glared at Van Oka, pointed to the sea and asked, Van Oka, will you jump off by yourself, or will you kick me? Take it as a physical exercise. Thought Van Oka. The news bird flew away in fright, and disappeared after a few plops. Moran felt offended, and roared angrily, no one is allowed to eat today, just drink the northwest wind. Moran saw the little bird's eyes, and roared angrily, go away, you are looking at me with such eyes, believe it or not, I will make you hard. Moran saw the people laughing so hard that they almost lost their breath, gave them a vicious look, and then lay down on the recliner and read the newspaper again. Everyone on the boat burst out laughing when they saw that Moran was angry with the news bird. Hey, leave the newspaper and you can go. Moran raised his hand in a bad mood and pulled it down. A news bird was pulled down with a dazed expression and hit the deck. However, for a long time, no one on board spoke, the deck was quiet, and the whistling of the wind could be heard when a gust of wind blew past. Fan Oka jumped directly into the sea very alone, and swam behind the pirate ship. Chapter 114. Garp popularizes New World knowledge for Luffy. Interesting for you. Selena Gomez posts powerful bikini then and now. More. 493. 123. 164. Shocked. Enies lobby, the world's 3 major ZF institutions, was captured. A row of big red headlines on the newspaper, the handwriting of the old shock department, the familiar taste. Enies lobby was attacked by a mysterious strong man, paid a heavy price, and finally repelled the enemy. Straw Hat Pirates took advantage of the opportunity to attack Enies lobby when Enies lobby was weak, causing Enies lobby to fall, and the troops suffered heavy losses. Mysterious strong masked man, worry bounty, 1,050,000,000 Baileys. Captain of the Straw Hat Pirates, Monkey D. Luffy, reward, 300 million Baileys. Unexpectedly, Luffy still went to Enies lobby, probably because I stayed there for too long and gave Luffy and Frankie a chance to get along. Moran thought to himself. What Moran didn't know was that because of his interference, Bingshan had made preparations in advance. He originally wanted to find a backer for Frankie, and Moran's pirate group was just right, but when he looked for Moran, he found that he had left. So Bingshan came up with Luffy's idea, let Frankie join the Straw Hat Pirates, promised to give Luffy 21 a ship for free, just take Frankie to sea, and planned to let Frankie go to sea to avoid CP9 people. The Straw Hat Pirates just needed a ship, and they didn't have the money. Nami immediately agreed when she heard this. But they were just about to go to sea, and CP9, who had been paying attention to them, knew that he couldn't wait any longer, so he grabbed Frankie directly. Although Frankie has only joined the Straw Hat Pirates for a few days, but Luffy has such a strong sense of justice and is a stubborn person, it is obviously impossible to give up his partner, so the incident of Straw Hat Pirates attacking Enies lobby happened. If the forces behind Luffy knew that Bingshan used Luffy as a weapon, they would probably be kicked out of shit. Open black lens bracket 7 waters, Straw Hat Pirates close black lens bracket. At this time, they were eating and talking about building a boat in the temporary house. Frankie had already bought the material of the giant tree, Adam, and they planned to build a boat. Boom. The conversation in the house was in full swing, when the wall suddenly collapsed, kicking up a cloud of dust, and suddenly the whole room was filled with dust, making it impossible to see clearly. What's wrong? Who is it? The figure in the dust asked loudly. Straw Hat Crew, are you? There are a few men who would like to meet, Monkey D. Luffy. When the dust slowly dissipated, they finally saw clearly that there was a tall person standing in the hole in the wall. An old man with white hair, a marine justice coat, and a dog had appeared, looking at them with a gloomy expression. Marine. Oh, still the same hopeless guy as before. The old man passed through the crowd immediately after speaking, and rushed directly to the sleeping Luffy, with a bubble in his nose. What? Oops. Sanji and Frankie looked shocked, and turned their heads to look in Luffy's direction with a cry of exclamation. Get up soon. Boom. The old man let out a loud roar, and punched Luffy hard on the head. Luffy was directly punched to the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust. Luffy. Seeing Luffy being hammered, Chopper exclaimed. It hurts. It hurts. Luffy rolled his eyes, sat on the ground and screamed for pain. Pain? Sanji asked in shock. What are you talking about? That was a fist just now. How could it have an effect on rubber? The old man said coolly. A fistful of love is irresistible. Luffy, you really made a big fuss. Grandpa. When everyone heard this, they were all stunned. After some introduction from Luffy, they finally know the source of Luffy's tenacious vitality. Garp said with an ugly face. Luffy, I wanted to train you to be a marine soldier, but now you are a pirate. Should you give me an explanation? Luffy retorted. Didn't I always say that I want to be a pirate? Garp said disdainfully. Boring. Have you been poisoned by red hair? Luffy said with an ugly face. Shanks is my benefactor, you are not allowed to speak ill of him. Garp's face was livid, he reached out and grabbed Luffy's collar, and shouted directly in front of his eyes. How dare you order Grandpa not to say such things? Luffy, who was held in Garp's hands, immediately confessed and apologized. I'm sorry. Chopper exclaimed. No way, Luffy was caught by Marine. Sanji said with an ugly face. No. He has no intention of fighting against that old man. Before they finished speaking, Luffy and Garp suddenly had a big bubble popping out of their noses. Are you asleep? Shocked everyone. Get up soon. Luffy, are you taking a lesson from others? Bang, bang, bang. Garp woke up and beat Luffy up. And you even spoke rudely to Grandpa. Seeing this situation, everyone was speechless. Let's make trouble as you like. Luffy's screams and bangs sounded in the room. When Garp finished beating up, Luffy was already covered in hair, and he kept sitting on the ground and shouting. It hurts. And do you know 290, what kind of pirate is the man with the red hair? Hearing the red-haired Luffy's eyes light up, he asked anxiously, Shanks. Shanks, are they okay? Where are they? What's good? Among the pirates that are as numerous as stars, he is one of the 4 pirates tied with Whitebeard. In the second half of the Grand Line, they reign like emperors. The world calls them 4 emperors, only the Marine headquarters and the 7 warlords of the sea can compete with the power of these 4 people. Once these three major forces lose their balance, they will produce a huge force that can cause the world balance to collapse. Garp said a lot, but Luffy said with a blank face, although I don't understand it very well, as long as he is safe. Luffy took off his hat and said with emotion, I really miss it. Seeing Luffy like this, he knew that what he said was for nothing, and he was used to it. Garp thought to himself. Garp asked again with a dignified expression, Luffy, have you often been in contact with a man named Alphad Moran recently? Luffy looked dazed, and couldn't remember who it was after thinking for a long time. Nami walked up 2 steps forward with a speechless face and asked, is that Shichibukai Alphad Moran? Chapter 115. Hockey's Acedus. That's right, that guy. Naval headquarters wanted him to catch you, but for some reason he refused. What? Everyone thought of their sense of powerlessness at that time, and suddenly exclaimed, if he really wanted to catch them, he would have already been caught by now. Garp looked at everyone's reaction and said, I thought it was because of your friendship with him that he refused to arrest you, but now it seems that you are not familiar with him. Luffy interjected confidently, whoever comes to grab my buddies, I'll knock them all out. Garp said with a look of disdain, it's up to you. Anyone who comes off his boat can hang you all up and beat you. Nami asked suspiciously, there are only a dozen people on his boat, are they really that strong? He is not an ordinary Shichibukai. The other 6 Shichibukai may not be as strong as his pirate group. It is not that 4 emperors are better than 4 emperors. The pirates on the sea, respectfully call him Dragon Emperor. Garp popularized the knowledge of the New World for his grandson, so as not to provoke these strong men in the sea. Everyone was silent 470, and even Luffy stopped yelling at flying people when he heard this kind of news, he is stupid but not a fool. Looking at the silent group of people, Garp warned, in short, you should try not to provoke them in the future. He can be said to be more terrifying than the 4 emperors. His pirate group is the only one in front of him. He has the strength to compete with the existence of the 4 emperors head to head, the strength of the 4 emperors are all equal. Everyone exclaimed, isn't the 4 emperors the most powerful pirate group in the sea? He can actually go head to head with 4 emperors. That was already a thing in the past. Since the appearance of Wanjian pirates, this theory is no longer true, because Alphad Moran sent the son of the 4 emperors and to Impel under the eyes of the 4 emperors down, that's why there is a saying that he can fight against 4 emperors. In fact, it was not just as simple as fighting against 4 emperors, but the 4 emperors were no match for this guy at all. He was very aware of how terrible this guy was at the scene. Garp thought secretly. Nami said with a sad face, Luffy, let's avoid this guy from now on, okay. She knew how hard Luffy's head was, and she knew that it was a sea of fire that she wanted to drill into. Sure enough, Luffy resolutely refused. Don't. If I bypass him because I'm afraid of his strength, how can I be one piece? His dignity does not allow him to make concessions, he is indeed the child of destiny who can awaken the conquerors. The few timid people all looked at Luffy with a look of lovelessness, and wanted to persuade him, but they didn't know how to speak. If Moran was here, he'd show Luffy his dignity, his courage, his uselessness against a wall. Moran sighed. It was already night, because it was not far from Tsubayati Archipelago, so Moran did not stop the ship. Wanjian Pirates was sailing slowly. On the way to Tsubayati Archipelago, they planned to reach the island resting at a stop. Fan Aoka stood on the observatory, looking bored, aiming around with a sniper rifle, and suddenly an island full of huge mangrove trees appeared in the scope. Seeing such an iconic island, he knew which island it was, and Van Oka immediately shouted, Captain, I saw Tsubayati Archipelago, should we land now or rest first, and land tomorrow? Of course it landed. Van Oka, you are responsible for finding the hotel. We will stay here for a while. Moran thought that he was going to participate in the summit war soon, so he didn't go to New World to avoid the trouble of running back and forth. Van Oka said with a displeased face, Captain, I protest, why am I doing all these things? Van Oka obviously also wants to go out to play, CBAA, go shopping and buy things. Every time he sees everyone on the boat going out to play, he needs to do various things and has no time to play. Moran said with the face of a capitalist. Protesting is invalid. If you want to go out and play, just do what I ordered, or don't even think about it. Van Oka held a sniper rifle, looking miserable several times and wanted to refute, but he opened his mouth several times, but he didn't spit out 10 words. Moran big brother, don't bully Van Oka, why don't I go find a hotel with Chitong and let him play once? Master Moran, I have no problem, just find a hotel. Blue Bonnie and Kai Tong pleaded for Van Oka one after another. Moran said casually, since you like working so much, I will leave all the work that Van Oka needs to do in the future to you. I like people who are self-conscious like you. Of course, he didn't dare to say such words, otherwise he would have to take a bath in the sea again, and he could only sulk on the observation deck alone. Van Oka thought secretly. I believe you, you be ********D, you are a very bad old man. Moran said with an expression that I was doing it for your own good. Van Oka, I asked you to do so many things to exercise your physical fitness, not to target you, do you know? Disband in place, what should you do? It's the captain. The hope that had just been ignited by Van Oka ended in such a dramatic way. What about the trust between people? After Acedus finished speaking, he rushed out and caught up with Sao Lan in a few flashes. Little ones land on the Tsubayati archipelago. ... Ask for a subscription. Ask for a flower. Ask for a monthly pass. Tornado turned his head and asked with a puzzled look, Acedus, why did you catch me? Let go. I'm going after Moran. Acedus said very haughty. He belongs to me today, so don't join in the fun. Moran had just walked a few steps. Tornado wanted to drift towards Moran after seeing it, but his little feet were caught by Acedus. The pirate ship finally docked and stopped at the number 20 tree, which is where Moran basically stops every time he comes. Blue Bonnie smiled awkwardly and said, Moran big brother, I will go shopping later, I may not have time to find a hotel, you should let Van Oka go. He wouldn't believe the nonsense of these two women. Who are you fooling when you go shopping at night? Moran looked at these people with a look of disdain, and said to himself, Xiaomian, still wants to fight with me, you are still a little tender. Seeing this gritted teeth, Long Wan cursed secretly, HMPH. This stinky woman is always so domineering, sooner or later Moran will stop hating her. Kai Tong hurriedly echoed. Yes, 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 we too still have time to go shopping, so let him find it. Chapter 116. Moran fights with Acedus in the hotel. Moran heard footsteps behind him, turned around and saw Acedus following him and asked, Aren't you going to play, Acedus? Acedus said speechlessly, Where should I go to play so late? And how long have you not competed with me? Hearing what Acedus said, Moran touched his nose in embarrassment and said, Aren't you busy recently, have no time. Acedus said angrily, Are you busy with having a baby? Moran felt a little overwhelmed, and quickly changed the subject. Acedus may have an unprecedented war in the near future, do you want to participate in it? 2. Of course I have to participate, where is the battlefield? Acedus asked excitedly when he heard this. Moran looked at Acedus, who had been distracted by 457, and he was relieved. This type of queen fan, he can't stand it. Of course, in some aspects, he won't lose. There should be a war at naval headquarters in a few days, I will take you there to have fun. When he watched some at war in his previous life, the other Shichibukai went there alone. Originally, Moran wanted to go alone, but thinking that he might have to rescue that Han, he might not be able to stand alone, so he prepared to bring a few strengths the strong ones go to the summit war together. How do you know that there will be a war at naval headquarters? Acedus asked with a puzzled face after being excited. Moran began to fool around and said, I have an ability that allows me to know 500 years in advance and 500 years in the future, how powerful is it? Acedus asked with disdain. My little man, have you forgotten where we first met? The meaning of Acedus is obvious. If you really knew 500 years before and 500 years later, how could you be caught? That time was purely an accident, the ability failed. Moran edited and edited with embarrassment, seeing Acedus' expression as if he could speak, as if you continued to edit, Moran couldn't continue editing. Acedus teased him speechlessly. My little man. I may know better than you how much you weigh, so don't tell me what you have or what you don't have. She was the first person to be summoned. At that time, Moran was only at the Rear Admiral level, and Acedus taught him swordsmanship. She was also Moran's first woman. She was right, she knew Moran best, not himself, but Acedus. Moran said helplessly. You should also know that I am not from this world, right? Acedus nodded and said, well, you know, most of the people on board are not from this world, right? Moran began to nonsense with half truth and half falsehood. I just know the general direction of this world, and we are not people in this world, so of course I don't know what will happen to me. Acedus circled around Moran a few times, looking suspiciously at her. She always felt that something was wrong, but she couldn't tell. She couldn't find the problem for a long time and could only say, you guys passed the test. Seeing that he finally got away with it, Moran breathed a sigh of relief and said, don't think about it, Acedus. We haven't been shopping together for a long time. How about I walk with you until dawn tonight? Acedus said unhappily, it's not that good. She originally wanted to compete with Moran tonight, so she followed up. How could she waste this opportunity? With so many girls on board, she didn't know when the next time she would have the opportunity to be alone with Moran. Moran, the steel-straight man, asked suspiciously, why? There are not so many reasons, let's go back and rest after shopping for a while. How could a boiled duck make him fly? Ace thought secretly. All right, I'll listen to you, this is the head office, right? That's about the same. The two walked around for a short time. Acedus found a hotel in front of him, grabbed Moran directly and said, Master Moran has been walking for so long, I'm a little tired, there just happens to be a hotel in front, let's go there and rest. Moran has black question marks all over his face. Acedus will be tired after shopping for less than an hour. It is estimated that she will not feel a little bit tired after walking around for a day. Moran walked towards the hotel with Acedus, came to the counter and said, the boss gave me a room, it should be stronger. Next morning, Moran's strength, after all, is not as good as Acedus. After Moran left, 1.3, the boss walked into the room to clean it, but when he saw the scene in the room, he was about to cry. The walls were cracked, the bed collapsed, and he also knew that these two people were here last night. There was a big fight, but he didn't dare to come up to check, but he didn't expect the fight to be so fierce. Acedus exuded the aura of a queen, and walked towards Moran step by step. Moran knew how powerful this woman was, so he didn't dare to neglect, so he stood up and drew his sword and rushed forward. Bang, bang, bang. Fortunately, when that person left just now, he gave a sum of money and thought it was a tip, but he didn't expect it to be compensation. The boss said with emotion. But he still gave Moran the most expensive room. Expensive equals strong. There is nothing wrong with this logic. He is often bullied by this woman, but last night he accidentally offended Acedus. This vicious woman actually made him kneel all night. Moran is walking trembling now. ... Please subscribe. Ask for Wawa. Ask for a monthly pass. The boss looked at Moran suspiciously. He had only seen comfortable or spacious and luxurious rooms, but he had never seen such a request for a sturdy room. We still have to stay away from this woman in the future. Moran thought secretly. When the people around heard the movement, they were trembling, envious of them if they had this strength. For a while, there was only the sound of two people colliding. Both of them are of Admiral's advanced strength, and they fought with great force. The enemy, regardless of victory or defeat. The boss gave the key to Moran and said, "Hi, this is a 10 million Bailey room. It is guaranteed, strong, luxurious, and atmospheric." Moran stabbed Acedus fiercely with his sword, and Acedus looked at Moran with disdain, and directly clamped Moran's sword with the second Zui, turned around and rode on Moran's body, which was a violent beating. Moran thought for a while and understood, she's a drunkard who doesn't care about drinking. One knife surfing stab. Acedus entered the room, and went straight into the bathroom. Moran sat on the chair and waited boredly. It didn't take long for Acedus to come out with his whole body shining. Pregnancy. Chapter 117. Fire Fist Ace gets caught. Acedus turned his head to see Moran's tired look, and said teasingly, "My little man, you can't do it anymore." Moran said speechlessly, "Can you stop calling me that?" Since yesterday, Acedus has called him a little man, making him speechless. It's okay to call him in private, but now he calls him that on the street, and Moran can't bear it. Acedus asked suspiciously, "Does this make you dislike it?" "I don't like it. I don't like it very much. Otherwise, you can just call me by my name. You don't need to call me an adult. It doesn't matter, but you can't eat some weird famous officials." "Then I'll call you Moran from now on," Acedus said with a smile. Acedus actually called it that way on purpose. She knew that Moran didn't like these weird names. He thought it was a bit unfamiliar to call him an adult, so he wanted to change it, but he had to let Moran say it himself. "Where are we going next, Moran?" Hearing Acedus' words, Moran blurted out, "Let's go sit at Rayleigh's." In fact, Moran didn't know where to go, so he had to talk to Rayleigh. By the way, he asked where that scumbag was now, to see if there was any help. "What's the fun of going there? Just a bad old man, why don't we go shopping?" Acedus obviously didn't want to go to the bar to rip off the bar. In his eyes, only Moran was still fighting, and the others had to stand aside. "I have something to go there. If you don't like to go there, you can go back to Chitong and the others first, or go shopping with them." Acedus directly hugged Moran's arm and said, "I will follow you wherever you go today, don't try to get rid of me." "Okay. Follow me as long as you don't feel bored." It didn't take long for Moran to bring Acedus to the rip-off bar. Rayleigh was sitting on the bar chair at this time, holding a newspaper and looking at it with a gloomy face. Shaki looked at Rayleigh with a worried face. Rayleigh is coming out to pick up the guests. At this time, a voice sounded outside the door. Rayleigh, who was already in a bad mood, immediately turned dark when he heard this, but he didn't say a word. He is not interested in arguing with Moran now. Gadget. The bar door was pushed open, and Moran and Acedus walked in. Moran walked in and said with a smile, "Yo, Rayleigh, I came all the way to see you. It's fine if you don't come out to greet me. I came in by myself and you still turned your back to me. You are so rude." Shaki said helplessly. "The old man Moran is in a bad mood today, so don't provoke him." Moran looked at Shaki pretending to be puzzled and asked, "What's wrong with this old guy? Did Rayleigh's wife run away with someone else?" Moran asked Rayleigh on purpose to provoke Rayleigh, who made the old guy so unpopular. Moran doesn't like the old guys in this world very much, they are all a bunch of old yin coins, and he might be tricked by them anytime soon. Shaki reluctantly took a newspaper, handed it to Moran and said, "You can see for yourself why he is in a bad mood." Upon hearing this, Moran took the newspaper, opened it with a puzzled face, and read it. Shock, Whitebeard Pirates. Team 2 Captain. Fire Fist Ace was captured by Marine and will be publicly executed in Naval Headquarters 6 days later. The new 7 Warlords of the Sea. Blackbeard Pirates Marshal D. Tiki. 7 Warlords of the Sea is full again. 7 Warlords of the Sea is full again, but with a few changes, can it still compete with the 4 Sea Emperors of New World as before? A row of big red headlines on the newspaper, the handwriting of the old shock department, the familiar taste. Marine is still as shameless as ever. The man was caught by Marshal D. Titch, but it was written as Marine's capture. The last time he confronted 4 emperors by himself was the same, and Marine wrote it as a joint fight against 4 emperors. In terms of being shameless, it has to be Marine. Moran said with emotion. Ace has been caught, then the summit war is about to begin. Marshal D. Diki, the biggest old yin coin in the pirate world, has also become 7 Warlords of the Sea, and he should be preparing to attack Impel down next. Shaki asked curiously, "Did you know that something would happen to him?" BWGB. B. ... Please subscribe. Please ask for flowers. Ask for a monthly pass. I just heard that he was chasing Marshal D. Titch, and when I thought about this silly character, I knew something might happen to him, so I wanted to come here and ask, but I didn't expect it to be a step too late. Rayleigh looked at Moran with a serious face and asked, no matter how you say it, he's still your half-disciple. Is there any way you can save him? Rayleigh said with a sad face. That old guy Whitebeard will definitely go to Naval Headquarters, my old bone. If I go to Naval Headquarters, I probably won't be able to come back. Rayleigh said confidently. I don't die so easily, just rest assured. Moran nodded and said, although I haven't finished reading it completely, I probably understand the meaning. If you don't think about it, it's normal for this idiot to be caught. It's just a matter of time. For the first time since Moran came in, Rayleigh asked, did you finish it? Anything to say? Rayleigh was left speechless, and the relationship between Moran and them was not particularly good, so asking him to give up his Shichibukai identity to save people is really a bit difficult. Moran looked at the shameless Rayleigh, and said angrily, that guy is your apprentice, not mine, what the hell are you doing? Moran thought secretly, of course I know, not only that he will be caught, but also whether he will die. Looking at Rayleigh's expression, Shaki knew what he wanted to do, and said blankly, go if you want. Don't die, Li Haojiao. Whether you can save this guy or not depends on your mood then. Moran thought to himself. Rayleigh turned to look at Moran and asked, what are you guys doing here? I hope so, Shaki muttered as if to himself. Moran mocked. You're still a little bit self-aware. Rayleigh looked at Shaki, then looked at the newspaper with a tangled and hesitant look on his face. He wrote to Naval Headquarters to save people, but he didn't know if Shaki would agree to let him do it. Moran didn't hide it, and said bluntly, I originally planned to ask about Ace's news, but it seems that I don't need to ask now. Chapter 118. The two Marine Admirals fearing Moran. Interesting for you. Selena Gomez posts powerful bikini then and now. More. 858. 215. 286. Shaki said with the original expression. This has been caught for a few days. Marine has sent people to invite other Shichibukai. Marine didn't inform you. It's a bit abnormal. Moran himself was also a little puzzled. Logically the newspapers had already come out, and Naval Headquarters had already invited Shichibukai, but he had read the news in the newspaper instead of the Naval Headquarters notice. Is it popular? If Sengoku knew what was going on in Moran's mind, he would point at him angrily and scold him. The whole miser can't do without Bailey, who would want to deal with you? Moran said indifferently. It doesn't matter if you inform me or not, I'll join in the fun anyway. If you don't inform me, then I'll turn around and call Marine, and tear down Naval Headquarters directly. Rayleigh secretly prayed in his heart. Don't invite this little monster, or you won't be able to save people when the time comes. If you leave Naval Headquarters, you're just saving yourself. Shaki laughed and said, I wouldn't do it without inviting you, otherwise Marine would have to face 2 4 Emperors level pirates at the same time. I added in my heart. There are more than 3 4 Emperors levels. She is doing intelligence, and most people don't know about her, but she is very aware of how terrifying the overall strength of the Wanjian pirates is. Acedus thought secretly at the side. The Naval Headquarters war that Moran mentioned should be this war. Rayleigh still didn't give up and asked. Ace has been studying with you for several days, so you really don't plan to save him. It depends on your mood. If you are in a good mood, save him. If you are in a bad mood, I will personally send him on the road. Hee. You still want to kidnap me morally, don't even think about it. Moran thought to himself. Rayleigh groaned secretly in his heart, but he didn't expect it to have the opposite effect. Open black lens bracket Naval Headquarters Marineford 2 days later close black lens bracket. Sengoku was sitting at his desk, processing documents. Garp sits on the sofa not far away with a gloomy face and doesn't say a word. There are several people in the office, Crane Vice Admiral, Yellow Monkey, Pelusolino, Aokiji, Kuzan. Marine 3 Admiral only Akainu. Sakazuki is not here. A Marine soldier came in and reported. Report to the Marshal, go invite Shichibukai's Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral. There is a message from Vice Admiral that 7 warlords of the sea and Pirate Empress Boa Hancock will not accept the call from Naval Headquarters. Bang. The table is useless. Sengoku said angrily. Tell the Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral that if she doesn't accept the call, she will immediately take back Boa Hancock's title of 7 warlords of the sea. It's the Marshal. Sengoku thought to himself. I hope she can come, this woman is very strong. Crane Vice Admiral was making tea and asked casually. Sengoku, are you sure you don't want to invite Moran? If you don't invite him, if he thinks you don't respect him and hits Marine instead, it's not like this guy can't do it. Sengoku rubbed the center of his brows, frowning and said. This guy is full of uncertainty, no one can predict what he will do next. Crane Vice Admiral thought for a while, and knew what Sengoku was worried about, and asked. Are you worried that he will hinder the execution? That's right. This guy can do anything. Sengoku is afraid that Moran will say at that time, give me 100 billion Baileys, or you will not continue to execute today. Sengoku believes that Moran will definitely do this kind of thing. If Moran heard Sengoku's heartfelt voice, he would probably cry 10 times. Son, you still know Papa. When I realized it. Bah. This son is too big, don't mind. Crane Vice Admiral thought for a while, and then said, Sengoku, do you think this guy won't come by himself if you don't invite him? If you don't invite him, you will instead give him an excuse to make trouble. If there is no excuse, he will restrain himself a little. If you give him an excuse, then you will have a headache. Sengoku was a little ashamed of what Suru Vice Admiral said, and he kept echoing, yes, yes, yes. Suru is right, I will arrange someone to invite him over. Quote exclamation mark quote. Ask for flowers. A marine soldier came in and asked, Marshal, what are your orders? Sengoku turned his head to look at Suru Vice Admiral and asked, Suru, who do you think is better to invite Alpha Admiral? If you are weak, don't go. I think it's better to let Kuzan go. After all, he has more contact with Alpha Admiral. If he is strong enough for other people to go, I'm afraid there will be a fight. Crane Vice Admiral looked at Akainu who had just walked in, and said meaningfully. Aokiji was wearing a blindfold and pretended to be sleeping. When he heard this, he jumped up and quickly suggested, Marshal Sengoku, I think it is more appropriate to let Pelusalino go. He is fast and has a lot of contact with Alphad-Moran. You can let him go. 0. He absolutely doesn't want to deal with this guy Moran, otherwise he won't know when he will be sold out. It's okay to be shameless, but he is still so strong. If he contacts him again, he may become the first one. The Marine Admiral was sold, let others do this kind of thing. Aokiji thought secretly. Yellow Monkey's face turned black when he heard Aokiji's words, he doesn't want to play with you like this. Who wants to touch this catastrophe? Want to blame me? There was no door, and he immediately said, Marshal Sengoku, Vegapunk, just asked me to go over to deal with some things, so I will go there first. Call out. Before everyone could react, the elementalization of the yellow monkey chicken thief ran away, transformed into a golden light beam, and disappeared in an instant. Leaving Aokiji alone in the wind, with a stiff neck, he turned his head to look at Sengoku, opened his mouth a few times, but didn't utter a single word. Sakazuki's face was ugly, and he roared angrily, a dignified Marine Admiral, who was afraid of a mere pirate, Marine's face will be lost by you two bastards. When Aokiji heard this, he just gave a fart. He sat on the sofa and ignored him. If he hadn't experienced it, he wouldn't know the horror of Alphad Moran. It's useless to talk to this guy. It's probably just a beating from the society, to shatter this guy's pride. Chapter 119. Marine Marshal Sengoku who was almost D off. Seeing that Sakazuki still wanted to talk, Sengoku yelled, what's the noise? What kind of place is this? Looking at Aokiji, he said, Kuzan is up to you. Aokiji stood up and walked outside, then stopped and turned his head and asked, where are Wanjian pirates now? Sengoku Kaido. They're right there, Tsubayati Archipelago, you just go there and look for them. Watching Aokiji walk away slowly, Sengoku secretly prayed. Don't make any mistakes, one Whitebeard is enough for them to have a headache, if they add a 4 Emperor's level, they will let him go directly. Garp stood up with a gloomy face and said, Sengoku. I'm going to Impel down to see that little B******************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** and pleaded. It's just to catch up. Sengoku let him go. I can let you go and see him, but you have to remember, you are a marine hero and you wear a code of justice behind you, don't do anything stupid. Garp bowed his head and walked out without saying a word. He usually has a smiling face every day at 21, but now he looks arrogant and haggard. Seeing Garp walking away slowly, Sengoku and Suru Vice Admiral could only sigh secretly. As Garp's contemporaneous marine, they have a very good relationship along the way, but they don't know how to comfort Garp at this time. Feeling that the atmosphere is not good, Suru Vice Admiral changed the subject and said, in case there is any accident with Sengoku, you should call Alpha Admiral and let him know in advance. Hearing this, Sengoku also felt that it made sense. He rummaged through boxes and cabinets, and finally found a lazy phone bug who didn't want to be beaten, and called him directly. At this time, all the members of Wanjian pirates were chatting boredly on the boat. They originally stayed in hotels, but they were used to staying at sea, and they were not used to staying in hotels, so they all ran back to the boat. At the bottom of the mast on the deck, there is a small flat head that is 1 meter high and several meters wide. Acedus sat on it, leaning against the mast, looking at Moran who was lying on her lap, using her leg as a pillow, and pinched Moran's neck with his hands. The nose asked, didn't you say, Moran, that a war is about to happen? Why hasn't there been any movement until now? Moran Nuanyuan opened his eyes and looked up, but he couldn't see Acedus' face. His sight was blocked by 2 huge mountain peaks. This beautiful scenery is so beautiful. Moran came back to his senses, and slapped off the evil little hand on his nose. Kaido, there are still a few days before the execution, and it is only a matter of time before the war breaks out, don't worry. Moran big brother, your phone is buzzing. Blue Bonnie trotted over with the phone bug and handed it to Moran. Boo boo boo, boo boo. Moshi moshi. It's Alphad Moran, Marshal Sengoku, I thought you wouldn't call me this. I'm going to bring the pirates to the old man Whitebeard's place as a guest. After all, I'm here in your marine, so I don't seem to be very popular. Threat, this is a naked threat. Sengoku roared in his heart. Crane Vice Admiral next to him saw that Sengoku was suppressing his anger without saying a word, and knew that he had hit a wall again, so he walked over helplessly and said, Sengoku, let me inform him. Sengoku was trembling with anger, and instead of giving the phone bug to Vice Admiral directly, he yelled at the phone bug. Alphad Moran, you be *************** D. If you dare to go to Whitebeard, I will immediately withdraw your Shichibukai identity now, believe it or not. Moran directly covered his ears and yelled, ouch, my ears seem to be injured internally. Moran turned his head and winked, looked at Luo and said, Dr. Luo, come here quickly, I feel that I have suffered an internal injury. Luo, who was not far away from him, also heard their conversation, and very cooperatively said, Captain, I can't heal your internal injury. I heard that on the Whitebeard Pirates, there is a very skilled ship doctor called Margao. His Phoenix Fruit ability is very effective for internal injuries. How about, let's go to them for treatment. Moran pretended to be hesitant and said, but if you go to him for treatment, don't you owe them a favor? Luo pretended to be anxious, but said with a blank expression on his face, Captain, what time is it? You don't care about human feelings. Moran still hesitated. Then what if they asked me to help them fight Marine? Acedus pulled Moran over, let him rest on his lap, and said in a very haughty way, then we will fight Marine, the worst is not to do this Shichibukai, we will protect you from now on, don't be afraid of Marine. Acedus said half-truthfully, she wished that Marine would catch her, so that she could fight, but Moran did this Shichibukai out of trouble, and she couldn't say anything, who let her man make this decision. Ha, ha, ha. Sengoku listened to the singing on the opposite side of the phone bug, his face was dark, his veins were bursting, and he was panting like a cow, obviously he was very angry. Crane Vice Admiral looked at Sengoku who was trembling with anger and couldn't even say 130 words, and complained speechlessly, I told you not to talk to him, you insist on finding guilt, who is to blame for this? Crane Vice Admiral looked at Sengoku still holding the phone bug and was angry. He didn't intend to hand over the phone bug to her, and directly stepped forward to grab the phone bug. She is afraid that Sengoku will be P***** D to death, if a Marine Marshal is P***** D to death by pirates, then the fun will be great. The phone bug was snatched away. Sengoku came back to his senses. Suru gave me the phone bug, I have to teach this little B***** DA lesson today. Crane Vice Admiral taunted. Come on, you. I'm telling you to keep talking, can you teach him not to talk, but I'm very sure that you will be P***** D off. After speaking, he took the phone bug and walked to the sofa, and said to the phone bug while walking, let me tell you about Moran. Aokiji is already on his way to pick you up. Get ready to come to Marine and participate in the execution of Fire Fist Ace. Moran grinned and said, oh, so it's Crane Vice Admiral, my ears. Before Moran finished speaking, Crane Vice Admiral interrupted and said, do you want to come for the execution of Fire Fist Ace? Moran didn't even think about it. Of course I'm going, you all invited me, even if I don't want to go, can't I? Chapter 120. The supernova arrives at the Sabayati archipelago. In that case, just wait for Aokiji to pick you up. Crane Vice Admiral hung up the phone immediately after finishing speaking, not giving Moran a chance to speak. She deliberately changed the subject, and when she was sure Moran heard what she said, she could hang up the phone. Moran looked at the phone bug with his eyes closed, couldn't recover for a long time, and cursed secretly. Sure enough, none of these smart old yin coins are easy to deal with, and this old woman made another one. He performed so hard just now, just wanting to win Marine, but he didn't expect to be fooled into the text trap dug by him by this old woman's few words. He should have kept saying that he couldn't hear it. After the performance just now, as long as you don't give her a chance to hang up the phone, she will definitely hit Marine hard. Moran, who planned to fail, buried his head in Acedus' arms without saying a word, begging for comfort and hugs. You can jump into such an obvious trap, Captain, your IQ is a bit worrying. Luo cooperated for a long time, but this was the result, and directly sarcastically said. Moran showed one eye in Acedus' arms, glanced at Luo and said viciously, Curry still has 100 medical books, you can't finish reading today and you are not allowed to eat. After speaking, he buried himself in Acedus' arms. I thought to myself. Sample 873. I can't cure you anymore. Luo's complexion changed, and he begged for mercy. Captain, I was wrong, just let me go. He almost got sick from reading recently, and he doesn't know where the captain got so many medical books. Curry is not only food but also medical books. Moran assigns him homework every day how many medical books he must read before he can eat. Looking at the unmoved Moran, Luo could only reluctantly walk to the warehouse, thinking in his heart, I guess there is no food to eat again today. At this time, a group of pirates, all wearing suits and underworld attire, wanted to go to No. 20 Hongshu, but they were almost there, but they were suddenly stopped by a passerby. A passerby asked, are you going in this direction, are you planning to go to Mangrove number 20? With a cigar in his mouth, the captain of the pirate said fiercely, that's right. I'm going to No. 20 Hongshu, what's your business in stopping me? After the pirate captain finished speaking, he took out his gun directly, as if you don't give me an explanation, I will kill you. Passersby did not expect this person to be so fierce, and said tremblingly, yes. There is a Shichibukai in the red tree No. 20. Anyone who approaches will be struck by lightning. I just want to remind you just a moment, please don't kill me. The pirate captain asked solemnly, do you know which 7 warlords of the sea is there? The passerby shook his head repeatedly and said, I only know that the people who got close were struck by lightning, and I don't know anything else. Hearing this, the pirate captain stopped embarrassing him, waved his hand and said, you can go. A younger brother asked, Godfather, shall we still go to No. 20 Mangrove? The man known as the Godfather took a puff of his cigar and exhaled a puff of smoke. He said slowly, if you don't go, it's a bit unwise to have a conflict with Shichibukai now. None of these Shichibukai are fuel efficient. After speaking, a group of people began to return the same way. This year's supernovas have also landed one after another, Sabayati Archipelago, and the Straw Hat Pirates are among them. There are a few more figures among them, a person with only bones left, an octopus man, and a starfish. At this time, they are looking for someone everywhere. It is estimated that someone has been abducted. Moran, who was lying in Acid's arms, suddenly raised his head to look in the direction of no. One red tree, and whispered, "It's a few days later than the original plot." He didn't know when the other supernovas landed, Sabayati Archipelago, but Luffy was several days late. He remembered that when Luffy went to Amazon Lily and was about to return, there was still 1 week left before the Summit War started, but now there are only 4 days left. Acid's CBFD looked suspiciously, and Moran, who got up, suddenly asked, "Did something happen to Moran?" Moran said mysteriously, "There is something exciting to watch, let's walk around." "Let's go to watch the excitement." Moran looked at the people on the boat and asked, "Are you going together?" Blue Bonnie was not cooking, and with a lazy look, he first expressed his opinion. "Captain Sabayati Archipelago, we have visited the archipelago more than 10 times, I will not go if I am not interested." "I'm not going either. And me, I won't go either." Even Lan Bonnie, a little girl who likes to play like crazy, is tired of playing, let alone other people, and they all refused. Moran pulled Acids and said, "If they don't go, then we will go by ourselves." After finishing speaking, Moran took Acids and rushed to number 1 mangrove tree. Moran and Acids were very fast, and they met a group of people who just wanted to go to No. 20 Hongshu on the road. Moran looked at this ugly and slender man in a black suit not far away, such a recognizable person, he recognized who it was at a glance. Fire Tank Pirates Captain Capone Beige. Bounty 138 million Baileys, one of the supernovas. Call out. Moran turned into lightning, rushed out, and instantly came to Capone Beige, blocking their way. Moran knowingly asked, "You're one of those supernovas, Capone Beige, right?" Capone Beige asked with an ugly face. "That's right, I am Capone Beige, 7 warlords of the Sea Alphad Moran, you blocked our way, what's your business?" To say that the person Shichibukai least wants to meet is Alphad Moran. Anyone with a little bit of intelligence ability knows the horror of this guy. Although Capone Beige is a newcomer, he has been in the dark for many years. Of course, he also has his source of information. This guy is even scarier than the 4 emperors. Thinking of this, Capone Beige cursed inwardly, "A-hole." Moran said with a foolish look on his face, "Of course I stopped you because I wanted to rob you, so why don't I invite you to dinner?" When Capone Beige heard this, his face gradually turned dark. It was the first time he was robbed, but he didn't even have the thought of resisting. He just wanted to deal with it now. When Capone Beige was still thinking about how to deal with the past, his younger brother didn't know what was going on in his mind. When he saw someone daring to rob the Godfather, he just drew his gun and shot him. Don't shoot. Bang, bang, bang. Chapter 121. The Mafia. Capone Beige counseled into barking. Interesting for you. Selena Gomez posts powerful bikini then and now. More. 769. 192. 256. When Capone Beige came back to his senses, his little brother had already raised his gun and shouted, "Don't shoot." Bang, bang, bang. However, his reminder was still too late. The bullets passed through Moran's body without shedding a drop of blood. Thunder and lightning flashed in the holes made by the bullets, as if he was not a body of flesh and blood. It's so scary. Moran put his hands in his trouser pockets, and imitated the yellow monkey's tone with his mouth tilted, spitting out fearfully. Capone Beige saw that Moran was beaten into a sieve, and he was still talking slowly, and shouted tremblingly, "You are the most terrifying if you can still stand after being beaten like this." Moran looked at Capone Beige suspiciously and asked, "You seem to be afraid of me, am I that scary?" After finishing speaking, Moran touched his own face, which made him, 637, start to doubt his handsome face, looked at Acids who came over and asked, "Acids, am I not good looking?" Quote. "Moran is the best looking one I've ever seen, especially the way you smile, which fascinates me." Acids said bluntly without thinking. Capone hyphenation point Beige's face was ashen, and he shouted, "A-hole, how can I be afraid of other people's appearance, you have to have a limit when you look down on people." Moran suddenly realized, and whispered, "So it's not my appearance, it almost scared me to death." "Who will believe your nonsense?" A group of younger brothers from Capone Beige can't stand Moran's exaggerated acting and shouted. A gold coin appeared in Moran's hand, he threw it into the air with his hand, caught it when it fell, and tossed the coin over and over again. While playing with gold coins, Moran said, "Well, these are not important, if you don't have Bailey, then I can only exchange you for Bailey." "How many Baileys do you need to let us go?" Capone Beige intends to buy his own life with money, if there is no other way, he will fight for other Shichibukai, but this guy forgets, how many lives are not enough to die. Capone Beige thought secretly. Moran looked at their suits, they didn't look cheap, and he opened his mouth and said, "It doesn't need much, you can just give it 18 billion, how about it? Are you moved by your kindness?" Moran finished speaking with a smile, and also showed an expression that I am very kind, and you all come to praise me. Capone Beige looked at the wretched Moran with a dark face, and roared angrily, 8 billion Bailey. You just kill me. Capone Beige didn't expect Moran's tone to be so loud, and he opened his mouth to say 18 billion Baileys. How could he have so many Baileys? Bailey Moran's face gradually darkened when he heard about it, and he looked like a dog, but he didn't expect it to be a group of poor men. If you have no money, then you all go to die. Moran put the gold coin on his index finger, and instantly ejected the gold coin with his thumb. The gold coin turned into a beam of light and rushed towards Capone Bej's group. Call out. What? Too fast. Can't hide. The moment Capone Bej saw the beam of light, countless thoughts flashed through his head, but he couldn't avoid it or stop it. Cold sweat dripped down his face. He was so quick to think, he pulled a little brother over in a hurry and stood in front of him. Godfather, don't do it. Capone Bej's younger brother, who was pulled over as a shield, begged for mercy with a look of despair. Rumble. The few people standing in the middle were blown upside down and smashed through many houses. In front of Moran, a deep straight ditch with a width of several meters and a length of 50 meters appeared. No matter if it was a house or a big tree, they were all holed up. Minister. A group of mafias who were blown to the ground by the blast of light beams stared dumbfounded. The deep ditch blasted out by the beam of light couldn't recover for a long time, and they forgot to run away. Capone Bej looked at the younger brother who was tightly held in front of him. His body had been pierced at this time, and his own chest was bloody. If it weren't for this younger brother who helped him block most of the damage, he would probably be dead by now. Die. Thinking of this, Capone Bej struggled to get up, and ran away in the opposite direction. He really didn't have the courage to face Alphad-Point Moran, and ran away without looking back. Let's pray for luck, little brothers. Capone Bej thought to himself. Hey, are you kidding me? How can there be such a strong person? The passers-by watching the bustle around stared blankly at the deep groove made by Moran, and said with a trembling mouth. She saw that Moran just yelled for a while and Moran didn't respond, so she came over and pushed gently, and then Moran came back to his senses and said, "It's okay, it doesn't matter if they are 0.2, they are just a bunch of poor guys anyway, and the bounty is low, catching them is purely a waste of my time." Run away. Moran gradually stabilized, and wanted to have the urge to have a shot. This thing is a bit on the market. That's right, although it's lively and beautiful, it's still a matter of life. Just now, a group of people who were watching the excitement and talking a lot, heard this, and ran away without a trace. Hearing this, the other mafias also came back to their senses and shouted, "The Godfather is gone. Walk, don't get in the way of lousy, UB ******************. Moran didn't know how to describe it, so he said casually, "It's just a group of supernovas. They should fight with Marine later. Let's go quickly, or we won't be able to watch it if we miss it later." Not good. That's 7 warlords of the sea Alphad Moran. I didn't expect Shichibukai to be so strong. With this level of destructive power, is he still human? Let's go Acedus. Let's go to the number 1 Red Tree auction house, where today's excitement is. One mafioso came back to his senses and exclaimed, "The Godfather is gone. Ask for a subscription. Ask for flowers. Ask for a monthly pass. Moran's group has all run away." Acedus looked at the dumbfounded Moran, walked to his side and pushed him to remind him. Acedus asked curiously, "Moran, you haven't told me what's going on today." Originally, he wanted to try other moves of Sister Pao, but after thinking about it, he decided to forget it. After all, Sabayati Archipelago is so beautiful, it would be a pity to ruin it. Moran stared at his hand in a daze. He didn't even respond when everyone ran away. He didn't expect that thunder and lightning plus a gold coin would be so powerful. Try it out, the result is not so good. Run quickly. If you get involved in their battlefield, you will die. Chapter 122, Arriving at No. 1 Tree Auction House. Interesting for you. Selena Gomez posts powerful bikini then and now. More. 71. 18. 24. I offer 1.8 million Baileys. Mr. Number 57 offered 1.8 million Baileys. Is there anyone with a higher bid? I offer 2 million Baileys. Mr. Number 36 offered 2 million Baileys. Is there anyone with a higher bid? If no one bids more. 11. Snapped. Sold for 2 million Baileys. When the two of Moran came to the number 1 Mangrove auction house, the auction had already started, and the quotations and the sound of the transaction could be vaguely heard inside. Why can't we make a deal? Kami has no reason to be trafficked. It's you who are unreasonable. If you continue to entangle, legal measures will be taken, and you will be sued for obstructing business. What's in the way of business? UB **********D. How can there be such a business in the world? Hee. Lawless pirate. What kind of humanity are you talking about with me? Hee. Isn't this a member of the Straw Hat Pirates? As soon as he arrived at the entrance of the auction house, he saw Sanji talking with the administrator of the auction house, and it seemed that a fight was about to start. Summoned Road. When the auction house administrator saw Moran, he immediately changed his attitude. He came to Moran respectfully, bowed his head and said, "Mr. Shichibukai Moran, on behalf of the auction house, I welcome you. Are you here to participate in the auction?" Everyone in the straw hat looked at the barking-looking auction house administrator, and cursed in their hearts, "What a b**************** D who looks down on people." Moran said speechlessly, "If I didn't come here to participate in the auction, could I invite you to dinner? Do you have the qualifications?" Yes. What you taught us is that we don't have the qualifications." The administrator immediately trembled with fright, cold sweat dripped down like he didn't want money, and lowered his head to apologize repeatedly. "The next thing is product number 13. It is the captain of a pirate group. It has great strength. The starting price is 500,000 Baileys. Let's start bidding now. Hearing the commotion inside, Moran said blankly, "Open the door, I want to go in and have a look." "Okay, Mr. Shichibukai Moran, please come inside." Gadget. After watching Moran walk in, the administrator finally raised his head and breathed a sigh of relief, feeling in his heart, this sense of oppression is too strong. "Sanji, is he really that scary?" Nami asked, thinking of the scene where she had quarreled with Moran and called him an A*hole, looking at Sanji with a mournful face. His pirate group can be said to be one of the strongest pirate groups in the sea, and only 4 emperors can compare with him. Of course it is terrible. Hearing Sanji's words, Nami panicked even more, and said with a mournful face, "Then I scolded him before, will he take revenge on me?" Seeing that Nami was so scared, Sanji comforted, "If he wants to care about it, we won't be alive now. When this guy met us before, he probably just wanted to tease us, don't worry. You offended Shichibukai Alfad Moran, and you are still standing here alive. You should be lucky." The administrator heard their conversation and said with emotion. Everyone in the Straw Hat Pirates looked at the administrator with puzzled faces and asked, "Why do you say that?" The administrator said solemnly, "Because those who offended him are either in Impel down or in hell, so I said you should be lucky." What's the matter, Chopper? Nami looked at the yelling Chopper with a puzzled look and asked. Others also cast doubtful eyes. "I forgot about this guy from Shichibukai who owes Dr. Doriel a favor. If he had just asked him to help, he should have been able to save people directly." Chopper said dejectedly and remorsefully. "Shichibukai Alfad Moran owes you a favor." Everyone exclaimed with an expression of seeing a ghost. "This guy came to see Dr. Doriel before you, and he took away all the medical books in the castle, and then said to Dr. Doriel, 'I owe you a favor, that's it.'" After hearing Chopper's explanation, everyone showed a look of sudden realization. "If you want to return to the mermaid, you can only go in and bid for the mermaid. I can't decide the rest." The administrator heard the conversation of several people and actually knew Shichibukai Moran. His attitude changed immediately and he said with a grumpy face. Nami and the others looked at the administrator whose attitude had changed drastically, and complained speechlessly, "You are too real." The administrator touched his nose in embarrassment, actually he didn't want to do that, but Shichibukai can't afford to offend him. Moran led Acedus to the front step by step, and then pulled Acedus to sit down in the VIP seat. Looking at the person next to him, Moran glanced at him and said, "Hey. I want your position, get out. You be ********D. Don't be impulsive, he is 7 warlords of the sea, we can't afford to mess with him." A person just jumped up and wanted to curse, but his companion covered his mouth and dragged him out, whispering in his ear. While dragging away, he apologized to Moran. "I'm really sorry, Mr. Shichibukai Moran, my friend is not sensible, so I'll take him away right away, you can do whatever you want." After Moran waited for others to make room, he lay on the chair with his head crooked, resting his head on Acedus's lap. Moran would never stand if he could sit now, and never sit if he could lie down. Yang Yang looks like a salted fish. People around are whispering and making noise. "Boss, that guy is." "Ah, that's right, Shichibukai Alfad Moran, I didn't expect Dino Zhou to meet such a guy here." Eustace Kid said directly before his crew could finish asking. The crew member of Eustace Kid asked again worriedly, "Boss, I heard that this guy likes to catch pirates very much, why don't we get away?" Others also looked at Eustace Kid, eagerly waiting for his answer. They didn't want to conflict with Shichibukai, but they were afraid that their lawless captain would do something in a whim, and that would be terrible. Eustace Kid was watched by everyone, needless to say, he could guess what they wanted to say, a little speechless. "Wait a minute, I'm not a brain dead, it won't happen like you think, don't worry." Everyone in Kid Pirates still stared at Eustace Kid worriedly, to prevent any accidents. Chapter 123, The Auction Mermaid, Kami. A group of Nami followed closely and walked into the auction house. The people from Kid Pirates were the first to spot them because they were standing at the door. "Boss, that should be the Straw Hat Crew." Hearing the crew's words, Eustace Kid turned his head and glanced and said, "The captain of Straw Hat Crew is not here. I really want to see what a stupid guy it is." Next is product number 14. This product is for a mother. Needless to say, housework, from poker to chess, I am good at all kinds of games. It is the best object for you to pass the time. The starting price is 600,000 Baileys. The auctioneer is on the stage, passionately introducing each product, and when the atmosphere in the auction room becomes lively, the bids will start to bid. "Oh, maybe it's a rare merchant. Failed. I just bought a lot of them, and I have already spent my budget. No matter how you look at it, this one is better, it looks good. Ha ha ha, it's a pity, I'm the one to win the bid, let's go." The auction house became lively in an instant, everyone whispered to each other. Moran looked like he had nothing to do with himself, hanging high, and continued to lie on Acedus' lap and listen to these people chatting, no matter who said what, nothing escaped his ears. 700,000 Baileys. * 2 million Baileys. As soon as one person finished quoting the price, the other raised the price immediately, and the people in the auction house competed frantically for the price, as if it wasn't their own money. 3 million Baileys. Guest number 51 offered 3 million Baileys. Are there any higher bids? Any more? Cuckoo. Customer number 51, sold for 3 million Baileys. Ha ha ha. An old man who photographed this product laughed wildly, and Moran next to him couldn't stand the noise. Moran raised his head and looked at the old man, and said very calmly, "Shut up. If you make a little sound, I will drag you up and sell you." After finishing speaking, Moran buried his head in Acedus's arms, without even looking at him. The old man was pale and trembling from his fright. On the side of the Straw Hat crew, Starfish Papagu saw the man wearing the collar, and asked with a worried face, "Will Kami become like this too?" Nami said with a firm face, "I will definitely take it back." Okay. Several people looked at Nami in surprise. Frankie asked a little worried, "But what should we do now?" Nami said unequivocally, "Bailey, this time. There are still a lot of treasures on board now, and there are 200 million Baileys in a rough estimate. What is the market price of the mermaid?" Twist. So many words are enough, but I can't afford it. The Murloc Xiaoba waved his hands again and again when he heard this. Nami said with a look of surprise, "What? Hachi, are you Kami's guardian?" Ba waved his hands and said, "That's not true." Nami turned around and said with a firm face, "It doesn't matter how much it costs to get back our friends, everyone agrees." Chopper was the first to comment. Of course, money is not an issue. Others didn't care, as if money was like dung. Papagu and Xiao Bakwan were so moved that they wept bitterly, wiped their tears and thanked, "Thank you so much, I will never forget your great kindness. I like Ms. Nami like this the most." Sanji exclaimed, circling in circles with love all over his body. Frankie said speechlessly, "It's so noisy." Follow up. After buying products again and again, is it finally important? Zunlin thought secretly. Because a pirate was not willing to be auctioned, so he bit his tongue and killed himself. The auctioneer is processing in the background. It may not be long before the auctioneer can only push the mermaid out. Let's save this quiet scene. Moran has been driving the observation hockey, witnessed the whole process. That's it. Pirate number 16 Rajuba, fainted because of excessive nervousness and nosebleed. I will introduce it to you another day. Ha ha ha. After some introductions, the auctioneer finally brought up the atmosphere of the scene again. The auctioneer wiped off the sweat in his heart, and continued to introduce with all his strength. The next thing I will introduce to you is a super popular product that can make everyone forget this trouble at once. A strange car was pushed out, with a piece of cloth covering it, and it was impossible to see what was inside. Flowers please. I believe that many people are eager to get her. Please take a look at this figure. Crack. A strong light shines on the pushed car, and a beautiful figure appears inside, with a human body and a fish tail. Oh, could it be possible? Great, it's a super hot item. There was a lot of discussion in the auction room. Anyone who is not blind can tell that this is a mermaid. Everyone is whispering, either borrow Bailey, or buy it from a partnership. Before it is photographed, they will start discussing who and who will be there for a few days. Listen, Moran felt dizzy. After the auctioneer whetted his appetite, he pulled down the big cloth covering it. This is a treasure. I've been waiting for a long time. Next, let us reveal it together and appreciate it carefully. Mermaid Kami from the Fishman Island. Originally, he just wanted to watch the fun at first, but now he is almost falling asleep watching it. Wasting his time and not finding a chance to get revenge is not in line with his character. Quote. Whoa. The people in the auction house were all crazy and screamed, but Moran was different from others at this time, looking at the auctioneer on the stage with a gloomy face, wishing to pull him down and beat him up. Of course it wasn't because of the mermaid, it's just that this auctioneer talks too much nonsense, and he has been tantalizing, wasting a lot of his time, and he doesn't know who this auction house is. The auctioneer tapped the small hammer, and waited for everyone to calm down before saying, "It's been a long time since the mermaid is sold, everyone should be very interested, so how much should I start from? What a young mermaid. Ask for a subscription. Ask for flowers. Ask for a monthly pass knife." Before the auctioneer finished speaking, a fat pig raised the sign in his hand and shouted, 500 million. Stop talking nonsense, please watch carefully. Great, it's a mermaid, shouted a fat pig not far from Moran. Great, cuckoo. The auctioneer started to whet his appetite again, before continuing, "Then, let's get started. Whoever it is, he'll just rob this place later." Moran thought secretly. Chapter 124, Fudged and Lame, Nami. Before the auctioneer finished speaking, Celestial Dragons spoke first. "I offer 500 million Baileys." Another old Celestial Dragon next to the fat Celestial Dragon said helplessly, "You're wasting money again, don't you already have a piranha?" Fat Celestial Dragons replied with a runny nose, "I want to see them chase in the water. I heard that the mermaid is the fastest swimmer in the world." The auction hall was instantly quiet, and a needle could be heard, and Nami's sign fell directly to the ground, his pupils dilated in a daze, and he looked unbelievable. No way. The opponent is too strong. The people who were cheering just now were all dejected at this moment. They also wanted this mermaid, but how could they have snatched the Celestial Dragons, so they gave up all of them. Kami couldn't hear the sound outside, and didn't understand what was going on, so she could only shout inside, "Get me out. Xiao Ba." Seeing Kami struggling crazily in the fish tank, Starfish Papagu was heartbroken, and said with tears streaming down his face, "We will do nothing if this continues, and Kami will be bought by Celestial Dragons." The auctioneer was sweating coldly. Although he was a little afraid of offending Celestial Dragons, he still bit the bullet and continued to ask. Yes, the venue was completely silent. "Just ask, is there anything higher than the bid of 500 million? Chopper looked anxious, pushed Sanji and asked, "Is there no other way?" Is there no way? Sanji, Nami. Seeing that Nami and Sanji didn't say a word, Chopper muttered with a look of despair. How can this be? I don't want my friends to be bought by money. Hole. Sanji said with a gloomy face. Oops, this is unexpected. I thought it could be settled with money, but the situation is getting worse. If there is no higher price than 500 million, we will be over. The auctioneer was still encouraging the crowd on the stage, wanting others to compete with celestial dragons, but the others were not fools, and they couldn't grab the celestial dragons. Leaving aside the robbing, just defending the celestial dragons is enough for them to drink a pot. Eustace Kid looked at the auction with no suspense, lowered his head and said, it's like the epitome of this world, a farce. Let's go back. After finishing speaking, he was about to take people out of the auction house. Xiao Ba said with an ugly face, if things have come to this, I can only let her escape to the sea as soon as possible. Hearing this, Starfish Papagu roared, don't be silly, what about that collar? Kami will explode. Xiao Ba still did not give up and said, so, I want to get the key to that collar as soon as possible. Where are you going, Chopper? Nami asked worriedly, seeing Chopper getting smaller and walking towards the front row. I'm going to find that Shichibukai for help, it's definitely okay if it's him. Chopper said without looking back. Nami's eyes lit up, he jumped up happily and said, that's right. Why did we forget him? Chopper, let me go with you. Nami caught up with Chopper in a few steps, picked it up and held it in his arms, and trotted all the way to Moran. Shichibukai Alphad Moran I. Wait Chopper, let me tell him. Nami didn't want to waste this kind of favor, after all, this kind of hard-won favor is too precious. Seeing Moran lying on a woman's lap with his eyes closed, Nami leaned over with a smile, squeezed his throat and said, Moran big brother, can you lend me a little money? Moran actually noticed that Nami was approaching, but when he heard Nami's words, Moran trembled all over, opened his eyes and glanced at her, and said angrily, if you want money, there is no death, no. For you. Nami glanced at the stage where the hammer was about to be hammered. Although he was anxious, he still wanted to give it a try and asked, what are you doing to borrow money? If you have any conditions, just put them forward. If you can meet them, I will never delay. Moran didn't feel sleepy when he heard this. He sat up instantly, looked at Nami in front of him and said, if you are willing to be my wife, I can consider it. Hearing this, Nami's face turned black. This guy has a lot of beauties around him, but why does he always miss him? If Moran could hear Nami's heartfelt voice, he would probably say, I married you because of my dreams and feelings, not you. After all, he liked the character Nami very much in his previous life, and now he has the opportunity to give it a try, maybe he will succeed. Nami thought about it for a while and decided that it was okay to agree first, and then it would not be too late to regret it. Anyway, it is not so easy to meet someone on the sea. I can promise you, but I still want to sail, so I will say after I marry you, give me money now. What Nami doesn't know is that she will regret this decision for the rest of her life in the future, of course, these are all later. Nami jumped up and screamed when she heard this. Obese celestial dragons heard that someone dared to rob him, immediately raised his hand angrily and said, I offer 1 billion Baileys. Moran said indifferently, just shoot whatever you want, Bailey is nothing to worry about, I'm afraid he will be a fool. As this woman dying. Hearing this, Nami regained her confidence and raised her hand and said, I will offer 1,050 million Pele. Anyone dares to rob celestial dragons. Hearing Moran's words, Nami also gained confidence. Seeing that the auctioneer was about to hit the hammer, she quickly raised her hand and shouted, I will offer 524,050 million Baileys. He said he paid the money, but he was thinking about how to rob him later without being discovered. After all, he is now a big man with a reputation, and he is still doing robbery, which is a bit too cheap. Moran deadpanned. I don't have Bailey. What? I have already scolded Moran in my heart. How dare you let me shoot casually without Bailey? ... Please subscribe. Please ask for flowers. Ask for a monthly pass. All the people in the auction house turned their heads to look at Nami, and they were all whispering to each other. Celestial dragons didn't make an offer right away. Nami looked at Moran and asked, how many Baileys do you have, Moran? Moran looked at Nami with the look of a fool, and said, are you stupid? Hundreds of millions of Baileys, how can I give you now? Just take a picture of what you want to buy, Foch, I'll just pay for it. Eustace Kid, who was about to leave, turned around and returned to his original position when he heard that someone dared to rob celestial dragons, continuing to watch the farce with great interest. Nami was originally full of confidence, but when he heard this, his body froze, and he turned his head to look at Moran with a mournful face, with a small expression of asking for help. Chapter 125, Luffy dives into the auction. Interesting for you. Selena Gomez posts powerful bikini then and now. More. 847. 212. 282. Nami screamed, then sat on the chair weakly, hugged her feet and lowered her head, crying, looking helpless and desperate. The whole person shrunk on the chair, as pitiful as she could be. Nami lowered his head and muttered softly, you must have lied to me without Bailey, right? After talking about the voice getting louder and louder, she raised her head and looked at Moran with tears in her eyes. She also realized that this guy likes to joke so much, maybe he is also joking this time. Instead of answering Nami, Moran asked, Acedus, do we still have Bailey on board? Acedus said very cooperatively, Moran, the Pele on our ship has never exceeded 100 million Pele, and they have always been below 1 Pele. Moran put all Bailey in the system space, and usually puts a little for Blue Bonnie, because she is responsible for the food and drink expenses on the ship, and the rest Moran puts it in the system space, saying that the Bailey on the ship is only 100 million. Wrong. Nami asked with a sad face. If there is no Bailey, what shall we give to the auction house later? Could this guy be planning to sell her for Bailey, and then pay Bailey to the auction house? But I'm not worth so much Bailey. Nami thought secretly. Moran said very haughty. I'm Shichibukai, a pirate with a plunder license, what's the use of asking for money? When Acedus heard this, he rolled his eyes wildly. He didn't know who was talking about money every day, thinking about how to make money every day, and how to deceive others. Qianxi didn't even bother to expose him. Nami stared blankly at Moran, not because she was shocked, but because she was in a state of bewilderment at the moment. She had never seen the world, and she couldn't understand what Moran was saying, but she felt a little bit powerful. Nami asked cautiously, so what does it have to do with you not having Bailey? We still have to hand Bailey to the auction house later. People like her who have never seen the world don't know what power and strength are at all. They only know that you have to pay for things and you have to give money for food. Hearing Nami's words, Moran, who was still raising his head with an arrogant face, instantly turned his body like a defeated rooster, and buried his head in Acid's arms again. Please comfort, please hug. He co-authored himself to install coins for a long time, and this little girl couldn't understand at all. She has never seen a film about a little girl in the world. Moran thought viciously. What Moran means is that he has the strength and the right not to give money at all. Shichibukai has a license to rob things and is acquiesced by the world government. Do you understand that? Acedus couldn't stand it anymore, and was afraid that Nami wouldn't understand, so he explained it to her very straightforwardly. When Nami heard Acedus' explanation, her two thin eyebrows jumped up in surprise, her big eyes bulged up, and stared into two big circles, and a small mouth opened wide, like a stay there as if in a fixed body. Crying in my heart. Why is this Shichibukai so pervert? There is such a right to grab it, and it is recognized and acquiesced by the world ZF. How can such a thing exist? The outlook on life that Nami has built up over the past 10 years is gradually collapsing. Gradually regaining consciousness, Nami said worriedly, although you can get Kami back, what about her collar? We can't take Kami away if we don't take care of the collar. Before Moran could speak, the obese celestial dragon stood up first and shouted, "A-hole. Who are you, woman? I'm going to send Marine to arrest you." After celestial dragons finished speaking, he took out his pistol and walked towards Moran. Nami looked panic-stricken, holding Moran's arm and asked, Moran, what should we do? I heard that celestial dragons have great power and can send Marine Admiral at will. Will we be arrested? Moran said indifferently. The person they want to arrest is you, not me. I have nothing to worry about. Nami stared at this Seebeck, shameless guy with wide eyes, and cursed inwardly with despair on his face. Just now you said you wanted me to be your daughter-in-law, now you don't care about me, how can you be such a shameless person? Seeing the celestial dragons approaching step by step with a gun, Nami cried and hid behind Moran, asking for help. Moran, you must save me. I am your future wife, you can't leave me alone. Nami even moved out his future daughter-in-law, it seems that he has a strong desire to survive. Moran thought secretly. Moran suddenly turned his head to look at the gate of the auction house and said, Don't worry, Han is here to save you, I don't need to take action. Nami also looked at the gate of the auction house with a puzzled face and asked, Who's here? No one. What? Just as Nami finished speaking the direction of the gate, there was a scream. What happened? Luffy, Rumble, Kami. Kami also saw Luffy, but unfortunately her voice couldn't come out, and the outside voice couldn't come in either. He still didn't know about Kami being trafficked, and was dragged into Flying Fish abruptly by Luffy halfway. Before he had time to explain, he slammed into the auction house. Zoro covered his head and asked in a daze, So, where is this place? ... Please subscribe. Please ask for flowers. Ask for a monthly pass. The younger brother of the Flying Fish Knights was not used to him either, and said, How is it possible? This is a flying fish. Didn't you ask me to rush in? Seeing Kami locked in the fish tank, Luffy rushed over, shouting while running, Kami. I finally found you, you wait for me to rescue you right away. The auditorium of the auction house was close to the gate, and a big hole was smashed out. A group of people were thrown into the air one after another, kicking up a cloud of dust. When the dust slowly dispersed, the people in the auditorium finally saw clearly the people inside. Eustace Kid waited for the dust to disperse, saw the person inside clearly and said, Isn't that Luffy the Straw Hat Kid? Luffy. Sanji exclaimed when he saw it was Luffy. Wait, Straw Hat Boy, what are you doing? Xiao Ba pulled Luffy tightly from behind, but there was no way he could hold Luffy, and he was still approaching the high platform. What are you doing? Kami is there. Luffy rushed to the high platform regardless. What are you doing? Can't you land properly? Luffy asked loudly just as he got his feet firmly on the ground. Everyone in the auditorium turned their heads one after another, looked at Luffy and his group who suddenly barged in, and wondered who this person was. Who is this?